You know what? I got a funny your mama joke.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Your mama's so fat that she walked in front of the TV, and I missed 2 seasons
so
of my
anyway,
favorite TV show.
This is gonna be the top 20 rankings. I don't know if I'm gonna put this on the YouTube or if I'm gonna put it on a stream as like a live stream thing. You know, we'll see how it gets released. But basically, what this format is all of us have made our own individual list of who we think the top 20 players are. This is every role combined for our top 20, and whatever we decided makes somebody a better player, it's kind of what we did. It's pretty individual based on how we made these rankings. I'm sure everyone's gonna do some different thought process for why they think people are better than others. Some people trolled a little, from what I understand. We'll see. We'll see.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Comoochi would never do that.
I know I'm getting a backlash. 100%.
I'm just saying, out of all these
Yeah,
icons, mine is the only one without my name.
There's
All those others to be
I know that's
2
that's why I had to
people
put the
I
names
don't
above,
have in mind.
Actually, it's because I was like, there's no way to tell that this is Comoochi at all. I was like, there's no way. And even if you like watch the stream, you might not know it, which is why I put the Discord funny things in the top right there, so that you can see names for talking, because people might not recognize voices for picks.
Also, nobody knows what the hell John's or Comoochi's profile picture is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at least, you made fun of unicorns, but at least he has his name on it, okay? You can tell that's unicorn, if you could read it.
Yeah.
Mine even itself doesn't really do a lot. It's nice little cheap to shapes. And it doesn't match my Discord one at all.
No, not even close.
Yeah,
Because
Mr.
I
Emerald
accept
League
Emerald on
owner.
Discord, yeah. I thought about doing Emerald, I was like, nah, I'll do it so they can see the signal. Yeah, so I mean, case, we need introduction. Everyone shouldn't, because if you watch the stream or you watch any content, you've definitely heard all 3 of the voices outside of me talking before. But everyone here has actually helped with the PRs in some way or other that we do weekly. Unicorn tends to do the stats. Comoochi does the supports for me, get outed. So just remember that when you're seeing his list today, that he does the supports, and it will all make sense.
Yeah, dirty Heimerdinger players out there.
Yeah, that's your outing.
Hey, I do
And
stats
and
also.
Void helps me whenever I ask him. Sometimes I need some help with jungle and ADC things because he knows them both better than me.
Yeah.
So, and I think people probably know you pretty well. You're the, hard stuck diamond in every role of the Discord.
Suffering.
And who changes roles every season.
Oh, you don't call me out like that.
Let's without
Sure.
further ado, let's get it started. We'll start with our number 20 here. And then see if there's anything controversial here for you guys. I mean, we all have different number 20s. I mean, I guess, does anyone have an honorable mention, by the way? Because I do. It'll kind of spoil the list, but
I didn't sign up for an honorable mention.
That's fine.
Wait,
That's fine. You don't have to have one.
Well,
I think my honorable mention actually would have been Stank, probably.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, what I did for my list was
Or Ultro.
I did the top 5 for every role.
Ultra? Wait a sec.
Wait, is Ultra not on your list?
No, he's not.
What?
the? Okay.
You have Ultra.
Okay.
You don't have Ultra, but you have Freya. Like, no offense to Freya, but I don't think Freya is like a top 20 because Freya just has to not lose for their team to win.
I mean, kind of.
I'm pretty
Their
sure
team doesn't function that way.
not to get too in depth here, but I'm pretty sure Freya has the lowest DPM of every.
No, that's actually Giggle Queef.
It's actually it's Giggle that has.
It's actually Giggle Queef.
He has the lowest damage share. I think Giggle's like barely above him, but he also has the lowest KP
Giggle has.
as well.
Giggle has the highest gold share and the lowest DPM and damage percentage of any ADC.
Well, yeah, because he just farms. But the point is, like, Freya literally is down there still. Like, Freya doesn't really have to do a lot other than once again not lose. Like, if Freya isn't inting to the other laner, their team will win.
Yeah,
that's true. But he also has...
given Freya could do more, and it'd make their team a lot scarier. But I don't think Freya's.
I'm sorry, Freya does 35 more DPM than Giggle.
He has a unicorn KDA as well, so with a 12.1.
Yeah, I mean,
well, the fact that paying attention to them.
So honorable mention to that.
The fact that they lost in 48 minutes to Shorks, and he died like once while they were getting absolutely giga stomped.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, that wasn't bot lane's fault. Okay, so.
Well, it wasn't bot lane helping either.
But
If
it
only
shows
died
you
once
he's not
while your
trying
team
to help
loses,
either.
Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
your team's
if
losing
you-
and you the ADC aren't there to do damage.
Listen,
to help your team.
listen.
If you lose in 22 minutes and you have 0 deaths, maybe you
Listen,
were trying
coming
to
from
avoid the
coming
game.
from the mid laner that hits everything that's off screen and never goes in melee range, I don't want to.
But he's hitting things. But he's
Yeah,
doing damage.
but-
He's still useful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, but I have
right,
perfect
yeah,
KD on
Unicorn
Xerath and
over
I
here
do
plays
1,000
Xerath.
DPM. You can't
No,
say that I'm not
no,
participating.
no.
Alright,
No.
so
Look, I'm also surprised about Scapegoat being on here. I don't
okay,
have
but hear me out.
Scapegoat at all.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay, since I had to put these in. I noticed Scapegoat isn't. But hear me out. Okay, Scapegoat is literally the only win condition of that team. Like Scapegoat is out here like trying to win every game, and is probably the only person consistently doing something on that team, while the rest of them kind of aren't doing a lot. Like, no,
I mean,
I'm
the
sorry,
rest of the team is
Kai,
consistently
Holy, I love you, but like Scapegoat's
Fully.
fucking dragging by, his corpse right now, and it's just. Yeah, I think Scapegoat is as good as probably the other ADCs you have on this list, but the other ADCs have a better team around them that make it so they're able to shine more. Whereas Scapegoat kind of gets into like that mid game where like they'd be able to shine and show off that they have some skill, which we saw in exhibitions when
fair.
they had a good team, but they can't because their team's so far behind that it's like, okay, my front line just got one shot by their jungler, so now what am I supposed to do?
Okay,
like,
that's good reasoning.
Just win
That's
lane
good
harder.
reasoning.
but you're still an ADC. You're still squishy. If your front line's still getting, one shot, you have no one to stand behind. Like you
but-
you can't do it all as an
Yo,
ADC.
don't make me send that range indicator
But-
for like
but,
dodge ADC.
you know,
thing.
if you-
There will be a replay that
Look,
comes
you
up
just
if
have
we
to dodge
stop
everything.
long enough where we see an Ornn run down an ADC who was fed, by the way.
No, but what I'm saying is,
Same.
if you're AFK in lane just going even, the rest of your map is losing.
But that's the thing,
You
is
can't
Scapegoat
really be
doesn't go
surprised
even.
that you're.
Scapegoat isn't AFK in lane going even. Scapegoat ends up with decent stats compared to every ADC almost every week. And if you're going even in lane, that wouldn't be possible when your team's down 5,000 gold at 15 minutes. Because you wouldn't be able to do anything after 15. So that means Scapegoat must be doing something in lane.
My struggle is that he need like his laning phase goes into like mid game as well, where you
I
just
think
see
a
him
lot
like,
of ADCs do that though.
That doesn't mean it's
you
a
see
good
him side
thing.
lane. It's not a good
Right.
thing. There's
I know,
one-
but my point is,
Okay.
my point is, a lot of people have that, right? And you're gonna have those people on this list higher. I'd be willing to bet you probably have someone who lanes to about 20 minutes in your top 10. Yeah.
Yes,
silence.
yes.
Yeah,
Sonic is on my
silence.
list. Yes, of course, there's a
Silence.
laner in my
Silence.
list.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly. Anyway,
JoJo.
there are
I mean,
mention,
on
by
my
the way,
list.
another hot take that I didn't see on the list is 21 would be Wichita. I don't think I saw
he-
Wichita anywhere.
Hey, that's a hot take.
He is in like 21 to 25 range because I,
think he would
did
be
top 5 for
probably
every
my
role.
25th.
See?
Listen,
21.
which
Honorable mention.
has not been
I
playing
mean, the jungle
very well
role
this
is
season.
real
the
difficult.
whole Waffles team hasn't though. Like
That's
Laplace
true.
hasn't
Frozen-
really showed up. Nasashi's
Frozen.
trying to make plays, but when your team's not doing a lot, like it's hard. And it like Wichita takes like the utility support role for his team, which also like Nasashi's a great support. So like I feel like they're lacking damage because then they put Def Coin Flip because they're scared of him getting gapped because he doesn't know how to stop pushing. So like instead of putting Def Coin Flip on these champions, because he's not a plat, right? But he does have champions that do damage, that if you get resources into him early and he does snowball, he will run over teams because he has no fear. But instead they put him on tanks. So you have a tank top, a utility jungle, and a support. So like you have two people trying to do damage and it's just not enough right now. And Arctic
Yeah, but
hasn't
it's Frozen
been
though.
there long enough
Hold
for
up.
us to see, but like Frozen doesn't do a lot of like outplay crazy mechanical plays. Like he just stands there and does control mage things. So like you don't have a flashy player on that team. And I think that is hurting them right now because I think every other team has an it factor in the Waffles.
I mean, I think they would be if Frozen. I don't know. This might be a hot take for some people, but I think if Frozen was playing as well as he was last
Split.
season, he would be the second best mid laner. But
Yeah, I agree.
right now,
He's not-
like he has the potential to play a lot better than he is. Like we've seen it, but obviously you don't just get credit for
Yeah.
what you did 3 months ago.
But circling back to my point, Wichita, the one time we saw him play his fiddle was a threat. And then not only was he a threat, while his team was losing, he was stealing objectives like crazy. I mean, he knows the smite button better than the junglers that we watched him against. We haven't seen others. But like we literally watched, his team was like kind of doing poorly. They had their ADC split pushing, and then he would just steal an objective. where he would have a huge fiddle ult from out of vision. Like we saw the times that he does get to play the damage champions.
Okay, that's
He's
fair.
capable
I'll
of
give you
it.
the fiddle one. Because the fiddle game was probably the best fiddle game we've seen in Emerald. And that was an amazing fiddle game that completely flipped the game. So
yeah,
I'll give you that one.
That was the only time that there was an it factor on the waffles all season, and it was him on the fiddle. So
I'll give you that.
Let's we'll start moving now. We spent like 10 minutes on this one pick. 19.
Yeah, you said it wouldn't take long, huh?
A lot of waffle picks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
You guys have Nasashi so low. He's trying to do things for his team, man.
Listen. I love Nasashi, but my biggest thing has been he only plays enchanters. And he literally just struggles playing with hard engage.
His team, that's like saying Def Point Flip only plays tanks. It's what his team is drafting him.
Yeah, it's what
Nasashi, we have seen
point.
Nasashi play more than just enchanters. It's what he's being drafted. It's not his fault. And while being drafted enchanters, he's still trying to have a high room presence and still frontline and be everything for his team. He's getting vision. He's making plays happen. Like, he's doing everything while on an enchanter.
Also, I would like to point out that Nasashi's played 9 games this season. 5 of them have not been on enchanters. So,
oof. Okay, that
seems like some horseshit right there.
Well,
he's played Rakan 3
like some
times.
horseshit.
He's played Annie and he's played Ashe. His other 4 picks.
Okay, Annie is.
Are
if you're playing Annie the way she's supposed to be played, it's arguably an enchanter.
No, it's
not.
No, it's a damage. It's AP damage. What do you mean?
No. Oh my God, you're so iron.
Do you say? Okay, wait. Would you say Lux and Brand are enchanters?
So
Brand is not new. If you're playing Lux at the high level, you're playing them like an enchanter.
You
not
do.
Brand.
We're
but
not
Lux...
high level.
Okay.
Let's just start with that. We're
You
going
see,
through plat.
I like the playstyle of Annie where you play her like an enchanter with a hard engage. So example like Sona, all her abilities are like enchanting shit, but you have the hardest.
All of her abilities are spell casting.
Yeah, but the
spell
main
casting
point
and
of any
enchanting are
support,
2 different things.
The main point of any support is to max the shield and get Shrelias, get rallies, and you apply a whole bunch of CC.
Yeah, the whole point is that you could lock people up and give your ADC a movement speed buff, a giant shield, and if you hit them, you're taking damage, along with them beating on you.
Me and Void literally ran people down.
If you're building full AP Annie support, you're trolling.
But you don't have to. Just because you build Shirelias does not mean you're an enchanter.
Yeah.
You're putting you're literally a stun bot.
Wait,
There's no
out of curiosity, if I'm playing top lane and I build like a Kraken top, am I all of a sudden an ADC?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
you
such a bad
max.
argument.
You can max.
No,
shield
your whole
on-
argument is around an item.
I don't.
No, it's
max-
around.
You
I
max
think
shield
Annie
on
is the
Annie
champion.
because if you don't have enough damage to one-shot someone, you don't get benefit from putting points in your other abilities. Whereas, like someone like Rakan, you get huge CDR benefits from putting points in other abilities. But on Annie, you don't. So you max shield because it's your most useful thing per point level up when you're not the I'm one-shotting you. So obviously, you would max your shield first.
Look, this is specifically for any support, okay?
This is
I'm
Annie
not saying
support.
for
It's
any
Annie
mid
mid lane.
shit.
I know, but I
Like,
think
your-
when Nasashi plays
your
Annie support,
argument-
once again, their team doesn't have an it factor. He had to be the it factor while playing Annie support. So I
Yeah,
don't think he was an
your
enchanter.
argument is purely because Annie is not an enchanter in the support role, but I personally think she is with how much utility she brings.
What? Since when is bringing utility the definition of being an enchanter
Makes
support?
you an enchanter. This is your argument.
Leona can perma CC someone for 4 seconds. Does that mean she brings a lot of utility and is an enchanter?
So Thresh is an enchanter?
Dude, Thresh can be an enchanter if you really want.
We're over this conversation. Like, that's bad. Anyway, I have Frozen 19. Frozen's gonna at me and be mad about this, but
Yeah,
Frozen, I'm sorry. Like, your
It's
team needs an
okay.
it factor, and you haven't stepped up to be it.
Frozen's not on my list.
Frozen might be
Frozen's on
higher on
my
someone's
list.
list, but I know he's gonna be more upset about other people's
Well,
lists.
he's
Yeah,
gonna be
maybe.
upset about mine actually too, for the same reason.
Oh yeah, same reason.
Same reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well let's go 18 and nothing else anyone wants to talk about. I think everything else is for. I think Macho 19 is fair.
Macho, yeah, he's one of my own.
yeah. If you want the reason for Nasashi, it's mainly because like a lot of the objective control that he can provide, he sort of just does it like within 10 seconds of the any objective spawning.
Well,
And
when
I feel like other
when your
supports-
team's down every time and doesn't
There's a
have
lot.
any way to
There's a
walk
lot
in.
safer ways to actually.
Yeah, 'cause-
like
wait.
even in the early game. Like early game is where it matters the most.
Because
No,
the
no, no,
waffles
Doesn't
are
Masashi
averaging.
have like the highest vision score for all supports?
Yeah, he
has,
does.
He has the highest
Yeah.
vision score, but a lot of it isn't used to the best potential.
No,
That's why I
John.
don't know.
Remember, he's only playing support, so he's only playing enchanters, so he needs his jungler to help him, and his jungler's not. So
Yeah,
what's he
the
supposed to do?
waffles,
Yeah.
the waffles on average are 1,800 gold behind at 14 minutes.
There's
I'm
only
glad
like
that you
2
found
teams
that
with a
stat.
positive average at this
Yeah.
point. They're all
That's
wrong.
so bad. I didn't realize
we
how
can't,
bad it
we
was.
can't go 10 minutes on every pick again, so I'm moving us to
Okay,
18.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, Stank. I feel like Stank making this list in Scapegoat Not is actually toxic.
Uh,
I
Look,
don't think
Stank actually. The only reason why Stank is on my list is purely because Stank has has single-handedly carried his game by split pushing as affiliates.
I mean, he also
yeah, he
griefed
also
that game.
griefed that his team was losing team fights because they didn't have their ADC there. That same logic could be used for why they were struggling in the game. Like,
Look,
his team
man,
was behind
objectives
'cause,
wins
like,
games.
Once again, that team at that point, because he was still on the Waffles at that point, they didn't have an it factor, right? And they had an Aphelios. They had a bunch of like safe, like support style things, tank top, and like a zone controlling mage mid. And you have your Aphelios side laning. You literally had nothing in a fight to do damage to the other team because of it. He actually was griefing his team.
No, see that game is actually why he's 18 on my list. It's because he does stuff like that. But I think he's actually a good player that does very questionable decision making and then tries to justify it under the guise of, well, I would have died if I didn't.
I think
so. That's why he is actually lower on my list. But you know, I think we're really focusing on the wrong topic here, and the fact that
that Doki
somehow-
and
no,
Nasashi.
somehow
actual
Comoochi
rating.
has decided to put Doki.
Look,
on the
Doki
list
has
here.
a lot of. He's
Yeah,
made a statement. He's made a statement this late.
Did you see his last
That's what I
week
was like-
games against the Black Mambas out of curiosity?
Look, I'm talking
Last
about
week was a
them-
fluke, clearly.
You said about the entire league.
I'm
in
pretty
general.
sure it is, but like I'm pretty sure Doki consistently has like the most deaths on his team every week. That's just gold that he hands over to other teams. And he always plays like a utility style jungler, you know, and he claims that he's trying to give gold to his team and he's getting assists, but then he won't have the most assists ever. He'll always be middle of the pack in assist.
Yeah, but that's what makes him
he's
most
always-
entertaining.
He's dying the most and he's not getting the most assists. Like he's literally dying and not getting anything out of the deaths.
Well,
He provides. He provides a lot of team fight factoring for getting a Ixia ahead. But that's why I don't have him high in this list, because I feel like
don't you say that's Doki and not Mao. There's no way
Look.
you're actually gonna tell me that's Doki and not Mao and not Ixie's over aggression, that where he just plays an ADC like he's an assassin.
look,
It
I have
has
a lot of other
nothing to do
people.
with Doki.
Look. You haven't seen the entire list yet. I have
If
a lot
you
of other
have Doki
people.
on this list and you don't have Beanie on this list, we have problems.
all right. Look, Doki is, to be fair, he's actually not the highest stats on average per game. That actually goes to Mr. Wichita by a whole 1.1 extra deaths per game.
Yeah, and that's why Wichita
But-
didn't make the list.
But Doki
Rip
has,
Witch.
like, Doki is the lowest KP of all junglers, the lowest damage share of all junglers. The only thing going for him is the fact that he takes the second lowest gold of all junglers, so at least he's not taking gold from his teammates. And that's the best thing I can say about his gameplay.
Look, man, the enemy team dumps so much shit into Doki that his team has so
Yeah.
much breathing room.
I know if I was playing as Sikorgis, my first thought is like, yeah, that Ixie guy, he's not scary. That Beanie
No,
guy
he's
who is
not.
doing some of the highest DPM consistently, he might not have the KDA to show for it, but he has some of the highest DPM in the league. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about him either. Let's look at
there's-
Doki.
There's no point of going after Doki because you know he's just going to come to you and give you the gold anyway.
And he's not going to be able to flash away from you if he
All right,
engages
he's going to
too hard.
play a Mumu with no support, try and contest Crab level 3 with no push in either lane, die, and then say it was a good death.
No, he had Ignite, bro.
Like,
No, he was going to win the
Dude,
2v1. He had Ignite.
Yeah, dude, this man hasn't run Flash the entire
I've never
he
seen
never
him
runs
run
Flash at all.
I mean,
I
it should
respect
tell you
that
a lot
shit.
when he plays Unsealed Spellbook and still never uses Flash.
Yeah, it's
I like the shout to Sniper Void, but I don't think he deserves top 20. I'm not gonna lie. And
Okay, here's my reasoning. So here's my reasoning. So he has one of the lower end in terms of like DPM, but he also has a really low gold
CS?
share for an ADC.
Yeah, his gold share is low because he has the lowest CS per minute out of all ADCs.
Yeah, no, let me get to my point. Sheesh. All right. So my point is that he has actually a really high percentage of damage dealt versus his actual gold share, which is hilarious for an ADC. Is that very rare? So I think he's rather underrated, and he's actually been playing quite well in the last couple.
I think Sniper
is
underrated.
I think he's underrated. I kind of feel like I put him a little high on this list. I do kind of think
he should have been your 20 instead of Freya.
I think he should have been my 20 instead of Freya.
Are you
if
sure
I could do it right now, I would flip them.
Someone else when you looked at that stat. Because he gets 18% of his team's gold and does 16% of his team's damage. That's not a high damage to gold ratio.
Okay, maybe I was looking at it different. Maybe I was doing it backwards.
Where's the stats?
Like, don't get me wrong. I love Sniper. You know, I think Sniper is underrated because I've seen Sniper have great moments. I don't think Sniper has done it this split. I've seen him do a lot, but in this particular split, like in Emerald, he hasn't quite been it for me. Like if you look at the numbers, he isn't doing a lot, which is fine because just like Freya, I don't think Sniper needs to right now. I think that team relies on like the rest of the team not inting, and Iconic and Rain has been playing pretty well, and their top side's been playing well. That like that top side of the map wins anyway. Like Sniper has a good support, and he just has to not lose the game, kind of like Freya.
That's fair.
So I think
that might have been reading the wrong stats.
I don't think he needs to try to do anything different, but I don't think that makes him top 20.
That's fair. All right.
Cool. Any other comments about 18s? We all content with what we're seeing?
Yep.
You got Defoe in there. What's your reasoning for putting Defoe?
Literally some of the best stats out of mid laners this split. Yeah, and he's actually like his team is running down almost every game, and Defoe's like constantly doing high DPM, constantly has good KP, constantly is CSing well. Like I know Defoe even sells himself short, and like other teams I think don't give Defoe the credit he deserves, but like on the Demons right now, when I look at that team, Night Train's too much of a coin flip. Like you're either gonna get a game where he does pretty solid, or you're gonna do a game where he throws it away. I've also seen Night Train have some anti-synergy moments from where like he gets too scared on Kindred and presses R too soon, and his team loses a whole team fight from it, type of things. Whereas like Defoe's just kind of been consistent, and that's kind of like normal for Defoe. I feel like when you think of Defoe, you think of just a consistent performance. Like you're not necessarily gonna see 1v9, but it's gonna be consistent, and it's the same thing that Frozen is kind of known for to me, is that where it's like he's not 1v9 in games, but they're consistent and they're not necessarily an it factor, but like they're present and the other team has to respect it. But I think Defoe has been doing it better this split than Frozen has.
Yeah, I mean, I think Defoe right now is, depending on what other mid laners you have on your list, I think he's actually lower than he should be. But I think he's the third best mid laner right now. I don't think if some of the other mid laners, I mean, obviously I don't have a lot of experience of seeing Defoe outside of these games, but I think if some of the other mid laners that I do have experience with were playing at their level I've seen them play, Defoe would be, a middle of the pack mid laner. But I think he's extremely consistent and he does his job. Yeah. But his champion pool isn't a champion pool that's going to 1v9 the game, and I don't think his playstyle is something that's going to 1v9 the game. But I think you're always going to get a very consistent control mage out of him, and it's kind of on the rest of his team to build off of that. But he gives them like a good, stable starting point to do that. And I just think that that's kind of where his like gameplay is at, and he's probably right now the best player on his team. Yeah. And he kind of needs help from someone else to step up, because he's kind of filling what he feels his playstyle fills, that role or whatever of being that consistent mid laner, but not going to pop off with 30 kills in 1v9.
Yep, agreed. Mm-hmm. So with that said, we'll go to 17. We'll trying to get it going. Okay. I don't think anything here is too crazy.
I think Pity Low is pretty weird.
Why?
But
what has Pity done this split?
Pity has 30% of his team's damage. That's fucking unreal for a mid laner.
He's a mid. What do you mean? He's literally has access to the whole map. He should be able to do 30%.
I mean,
jungle
with
and mid have
20%,
access to the most part of the map. What do you mean?
I personally like Pity. Pity's a really strong mid in my opinion. And he can be playing especially with his team. He's able to get a lot of his side lanes really far ahead.
Don't get me wrong. I have Pity on my top 20, a little bit higher, but like I don't think saying 17 is an ultra disrespect to him when you look at some of the other performances we're getting right now. Like Pity isn't bad, but this is, you know, there are other people, and I think you could argue there's 16 other people that are playing better than him. I could see it, and especially since I don't see Defoe on that list or Laplace. I'm, you know.
Oh, we're getting there real quick.
Right, exactly. So like I think when it compares to other mid laners right now, I don't think Pity is actually performing so well, because like you say 30%, but once again that bot lane Freya isn't doing a lot of damage. Sorry, it's just the truth. Freya,
it's also a team with like,
and Gale is playing support.
With, like,
so
yeah, I mean Freya's not been doing a lot, and Gale's been very hit or miss on his games.
I mean Gale has the highest CS per minute basically every week for junglers because he spends the first 10 minutes CSing, so he's not hitting another champion for the first 10 minutes. So it makes sense that Pity's going to have a higher damage share. And then not to mention, Gale also hasn't really played as much carries this split. We've seen him on some more like utility stuff. So like when your damage is coming from your top and mid, I would hope that they're both doing about 30%. Otherwise, you have no chance of winning.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, like
I disagree, but
JoJo's DPM versus Pity's is 0.1 DPM lower, but he's 2% lower on team damage. Like that's just. I mean, it's not like he's doing an absurd amount of damage, and that's why his damage percent is so high. I think he is a very hit or miss jungler that has questionable decision making at time, and I think his AD carry really isn't participating all that much. So his damage share is going to be a lot higher because of that.
That's also the thing is you have to get.
I also think the
DPM that you can't just.
I also think mid laners 3 through 5 right now I think are very close.
Yeah.
So. I agree. I think 2 mid laners stand out right now, and then you have 3, and I think it's the 3 that you have back to back here. 2 of them are on my list already. That are all similar. I think Defoe, Frozen, and Pity are all about the same, and then there's 2 that are higher. So, you know, we'll go ahead and show it. I think African, you did a little bit of a disservice, by the way. I think Rhino, being a 1v9, deserves a little more credit, but...
Yeah,
I'll go past it.
There's a lot of other players I think is good, but Rhino's, like, single-handedly, like, the best player on the Eagles, is how I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm now... I was going to make this comment earlier, and I forgot, Colin. So, you're going to have every single Phoenix player in your top 20. How have they lost a game?
Yeah, I just realized that too.
Because obviously with these 3, we know that you have Pity because of your argument you just made, and we know you have Sonic. So you're saying that they have 5 of the top 20 and they still lost to the shorts. And
I still think they're better, but I mean, like they can be if they actually play well together. They're just not playing at their actual peak, which their peak is by far the best in my opinion. Still,
I mean, I think their peak is extremely inconsistent because their peak isn't based off playing better and just having a bad day. It's their peak is based off of not making weird bad decision making, which they've shown that they're like they 50-50 flip decision making a lot of the time, but also they have good players.
So I'm just not sure why that is just fucking causing issues. Their team dynamic is nuts, but we'll leave that for later.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I have Pity at 16, one single higher than Ryan, which is why I agreed with having him at 17 is valid, because I think I could have argued putting Mal above him. I could have also argued putting Defoe above him, actually. I think Pity is a little bit more of an it factor than Defoe can be. He's hit or miss right now, but I think games where Pity is popping off, he's equally as influential as Sonic. It's just that you're getting that about a third of the time. So that's why I'm so far down.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, I don't know. None of these, like, I think, obviously, some of these names I have higher or lower, but I think these are all, kind of where you would expect these players to be in, like, the high to low teens. So
Yeah.
I think these are all fine.
I think all these picks are pretty standard to me.
Except for anything Comoochi says. That has to be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm telling us, 15. There's the Defoe, the pity forever Defoe. I mean, it makes sense when you look at the numbers.
There's a move pack for you because you know
I'm
I have
sorry.
to put move pack above Doki.
I'm sorry. Why is Icy Rain at 15? Excuse me.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Have you actually watched the games at all, or like paid attention to the games?
Do you need glasses?
I probably need glasses.
Time out. You have all of the Phoenix players in this top 20, and then you did a complete disservice to Rain, who is one of the two reasons that team is winning so hard. Like, I'll give credit, like, you know, the rest of the team isn't playing bad, but like Rain and Iconic are carrying the team right now, and their record is skyrocketing because of it.
I mean, Rain and Iconic, in my opinion, are the best mid-jungle duo in the league.
I'm a full Rain believer at the moment. He's committed to making my predictions correct now.
Yeah, that is. You know, I mean, defend yourself here, huh? Well, what was your reasoning for putting him 15th?
I mean, I just don't see him as the Giga playmaker. He's playing even into the other mids.
Are you just looking at KD
have
because
above.
he doesn't get the last hit? Or are you looking at like the damage that he's doing?
I've watched his games. He's not playing like absolutely.
They've only had one game on stream, and it was week 1,
Which
which was the only game that they lost.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. All I'm saying is here's the champions that he's played. 3 games of Yone, 2 games of Akali, 2 games on Pantheon, and then a game on Caston, Nico, Swain, Silas, and Zed. And my god, that Zed game was smurf as fuck.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Ryan were watching that game. We were doing stats for that game. We're like, Jesus.
I remember when you guys were doing the stats and you made a reaction about it, and I had to stop what I was doing to watch it. And like, that was probably the highest outplay that we've ever seen.
Like the fact that I could see how I was watching the game right there at like 2 times speed, and the fact that I could still easily see how smurf as fuck his team fight was on Zed. Like, he has absolutely been smurfing these games, and I don't think you could, even if you just looking at stats, I don't think you could look at stats and not see that he's popping off just based off the champions he's playing. Because if you're not popping off of these champions, your stats look so much worse. Because you're playing Pantheon, you're behind, and you're just sprinting it.
No, maybe I listened to him too much when he said he was playing like dog shit. So
I feel like you let a personal bias sway that one too hard. Because he is absolutely like he is. When we were talking about those top 2 mids that are above the rest, and then you have like 3 and 5 that are kind of close, 3 through 5 that are close. Rain's the top 2, and he in the top 2. I think everyone here is going to agree. Spoilers will also be JoJo between mids, and he gapped JoJo. And not only did he gap JoJo, he then after beating JoJo was like, I don't understand what the hype is about him. He really wasn't special. Like it was actually nothing to him. Like they made the Lions, who were like, you know, there was 3 teams that looked super strong: the Phoenix, the Sharks, and the Lions. And the Black Mambas actually made the Lions look like they were a bottom 3 team, and it was because of Iconic and Rain. So yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, we'll go next.
Cool.
I mean, I'm just not like. There's nothing I could say to you that you're gonna sway your mind. So.
And you still say it for your credit. I mean, other people are gonna see this. You might want to.
Nah.
I think Arctic also is wild that you put him above Rain. I think it's wild that Arctic's on your top 20 right now.
Spoilers.
I think I think Arctic has been underperforming this season. Like he was good last split, but it's the frozen factor of last split also, right? Where we saw Arctic last season, he played really well, and like this season he hasn't really been like too impactful.
I have always liked Arctic as an ADC. I choose to play with Arctic as my ADC when I get the option when it comes to playing in like a gold level, because I think he is extremely safe and consistent. And when you have him paired with Nasashi, who is this high roam pressure support, it allows Nasashi to go beat him. and you don't have to worry about Arctic getting yapped in lane. But we just haven't seen Arctic carry this season. Is my issue.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have Harvey over Altro.
Me?
Yeah.
They were super close, to be honest. I think that I could understand putting Altro higher, but I also think Altro has a better performing ADC at the moment that helps him look better. Now, I think they're about tied. Like
fair.
you could put them both at 14th,
Like,
and you could argue for why. I just think that in my mind, I also have to look at what they're paired with, and I think Altro is doing better with his ADC, and that could be because of Altro's performance given. But I also think that at base level, Altro's ADC is better.
Okay, respect that. I just think that Ultra has a more I guess it would be like more meta, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Harvey plays a lot of weird stuff, but it also gets people's banned. So
Well,
Harvey's never getting
Harvey
Zillion.
only plays Zillion. So
Harvey's never getting Zillion ever again.
Yeah, he's just a Zillion one trick.
No.
That's
I love how every game against Harvey now is just a permaban against Zillion.
I mean, Harvey is a very I don't want to say hit or miss because I think he's more consistent than that would imply. But I think his ceiling for his performance in games is extremely high, and his like floor on bad games is like lower than average. It's not like a terrible super low. You're running it for the his low, but I think his
the Phoenix model.
his like it's like his high. His high is I think extremely high, and I mean you saw that based off the
type thing.
I mean you saw that based off the MVP votings of this week where we gave him MVP for game 1, game 2, and overall series.
Yeah, true. He was smurfing. I mean, he
So-
can.
Yeah.
He just. I think it's kind of the Phoenix in a nutshell. Is they all have this great potential, and that's kind of what Void was saying early. Was like their potential is higher than every team. They just haven't gotten there, and that's true. Like on an individual level, I think their potential, like per role individually, is huge, but as a team, for some reason, they just don't make the right decisions, and they just don't translate it to a mid and late game. How good of players they actually are.
Yeah.
Um,
Although I will say I think
Whiskey.
maybe the weird one is Whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know he's not
I
on my list. I don't know if he's on someone else's, but
Not on
I
mine.
doubt it based off how far up we've gone.
Yeah, I personally think Whiskey is sure he's like one of those hit or miss his players, but also the fact that he's always trying to find an angle of engage. And that's like one of his team's only angles of engages, especially with like what he's played this season. So I think he's just like one of the more high presence junglers, whether it be good or bad.
I think
That's how I see
Nasashi has
it.
the same presence as Whiskey, and he's a support, and you have him below Doki.
I just don't like Musashi. He's a vision
So-
control, okay?
So my thing with
That's what
Whiskey,
his vision score shows.
like I get what you're saying is like he's like
Yeah.
trying to be the engage, and I just don't think he's been even consistent enough to be like they're like 50-50 engages. I feel like
Mhm.
oftentimes he's looking and forcing engages when even if they had a perfect engage, it wouldn't be like the correct decision to try and find an engage at this moment. And then he does during compounding on that, he also tries to like overforce things and makes a lot of bad engages, which I don't know. I feel like his being kind of 50-50 with your engages, just in terms of if you actually execute them well, but also the fact that then 50-50 of those engages are a good idea or not, kind of puts him lower on my list. And sure, that could also be attributed to team communication, whatever. Everyone just saying you have to go or whatever, and he's just fucking sends it because everyone says he has to, and we don't know that. So
Yeah. I think you make an argument that he's good utility, but I think Nasashi actually does the same thing, and he does it from the support role. So, all right, 13th.
Yeah, but this is where I have Harvey. Yeah.
That's fair. I assume you have Altro higher because of what you said to
Yeah.
me. I feel like it's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
I feel like Rhino here is fair as well. I think it's valid credit. I have a little higher, so I can't really argue that. I have to disagree with the Nap because I don't think he's at any point in this split has even been a top 5. Well, he's been a top 4, basically he's been like 4th place best top every week. And I don't know if that would put him in my top 20. I just don't think Nap's been performing high enough. What's your reasoning for that, Void?
I've been watching his games, and his mechanical skill is actually pretty nice. The way that he plays through lane is actually really, really strong in terms of like the way that he plays, kind of like Sonic. He plays this like very controlled style of lane, and he has like the second or third most double kills and like actually just is actually like when he's in team fights, he's really good at picking specific players and just kind of taking them out or just creating the space for his team. So I think he's rather underrated as a top laner. He might not be the most flashy player, but I think for his team, he's kind of a staple. The only reason that like other than Ixie on Corgis, like he's doing a lot for this team.
Okay. I mean, I do think that he's a really good space maker for his team, yeah, but I think that's also partially the role that he's playing. I just don't think I've seen anything from him that's that good. I actually disagree with your comments about lane from the lanes I've watched. I think Sonic is very meticulous on how he sets up waves so that he can punish other laners for mistakes they've made or not knowing how to wave manage. I think Nap just lets the wave do its thing, and if it works itself into a position that is in his benefit, he'll use it. If it doesn't, he won't. But I don't think he himself is manipulating lanes. I think it just there's timings where it works out for him and he can recognize it, and when he recognizes the waves in a good spot for him, he takes advantage. Absolutely. Like I think he recognizes good waves, but I don't think he himself is what's manipulating like how Sonic does. Like, you can see Sonic setting things up. Like you see the wheels turning. In he's like thinking ahead of what he wants to do. I don't see
I think comparing to Sonic here, to consider all things considered, is like not too great, considering that I'm pretty sure we all have Sonic like really high on the list.
Yeah, but I do think he's like
among the top
fourth.
laners. I think he's in our right spot.
Yeah, I think compared to other top laners, I think having Nap in your top 20 is, you can argue it. I think he's a little high.
Yeah.
In your top 20, I think being lower would make more sense. I think some of the people you have him above is interesting, but I mean, I could see why he'd be there. You just need to look at something here.
Yeah, but I mean, real talk though. Why is Beanie at 13?
I will tell you because I knew you're an asshat, and that's why I said I needed a second. Okay, Beanie is super hit or miss, kind of like how Pity's been. He's more hit or miss, I think, than Pity on KDA. Like, I think he, once again, plays those champions that if you don't get ahead in Snowball, you are not going to enjoy the game. But the thing is, Beanie almost every week has, like, top 3, if not highest DPM for mid. So, like, while he might not be getting to the last hit on kills, and while he might not be the flashiest player, I think that when you look at the damage that's coming out in the Corgi's roster, it's from Beanie and it's from Ixie. Like we know Ixie. All of us are gonna have Ixie at some point in this list. But like, if you just look at like the end screenshots and you look at KDA, it'd be very easy to overlook Beanie. But as someone who like every week has to look at these stats and compare them to every other mid laner, every week when I compare Beanie to every other mid laner, the only things that will fall short are sometimes his CS and sometimes his KP. And those are usually the things that are holding him back. But almost every single week, he does the most damage in mid. I think this week he probably did as well. I haven't done the numbers yet, but just based looking at it, he's at like 2,000 damage per minute in 2 games. So it's 1,000 DPM basically in week 5. And that's not like just a week 5 outlier. If you go look at the stats, he's in the top 10 on DPM. Like he does that constantly. And then you look at the damage share. He's at like 42% something damage share for week 5, over 40% or something.
No, it would be 21.
21.
You have to divide.
Yeah, divided by 3. Yeah,
which is his his
same with the DPM,
lower
but
than
still.
his.
So it's actually lower than his average. Yeah. Okay. So this wasn't a great week. They also lost this week. That makes sense. does actually. He played against Rain, and Rain has been outstanding.
Yeah.
So I think it's arguable. Once again, I haven't done mid yet. I was just looking at the
Yeah.
fly.
I mean,
last
I
week,
think-
so he's always done good DPM. He's always had great damage share, and like he's pretty hit on the CS and pretty hit or miss on the KP. Sometimes he side lanes and he's the split push for his team on games where Nap doesn't quite to do as well. He will go be the side laner for them, and he pulls mad pressure when he's on Yone and he's in side lane. 2 or 3 people are matching him. Like he pulls pressure, he does damage. He might not get the last hit, but he's doing damage. He's doing what you'd want your mid laner to do, and that's pull pressure and do damage.
Yeah, so I think, in my opinion, what would hold him back from being put in the top 20 is the amount of deaths he has for no reason. And I think you could levy this criticism to a lot of players in Emerald, not just like Beanie, but he lacks the the map awareness or understanding of when he is actually in danger and needs to back off. Which it doesn't just extend to like the laning phase, like some
saying
people
like,
are just like, oh, you're just perma pushing and you get ganked, but it's just like
you're saying even
like
side laning, even going
like the lack of awareness of oh, I see one person on the map and that person is the person that's matching me. I see no one else. I'm gonna walk up to this tier 2 turret and see what happens. Type stuff, where I feel like just that lack of map awareness really hurts any chance of him being an effective split pusher, because the team doesn't get anything when he gets 3-man ganked, because he doesn't wait till his team has to do something like before his team forces them to respond. It's the classic like solo queue split pusher where he's at their tier 2 after everyone just reset after taking dragon, then the enemy team collapses on him and then he starts spam pinging his team being like, well, what are you guys doing? They just sent 4 people to kill me.
I also think that like with the champions he does play, he can cause a lot more advantages for his team, especially since like one of the main focal points, right, is Ixie and how aggressive Ixie is. So with team fights, putting that aggression into the team fights, I feel is more important for his team than the actual map pressure. But this is just like based on like team win cons.
Unless it's last week, in which case Ixie's playing Rengar and you're not trying to team fight.
I actually don't think I don't think the Corgis in general team fight that well. I think all of them are based on their individual 1v1s and 2v2s. I don't think as a team fighting team, many of them are great team fighters. Like Ixie, fantastic 1v1, 1v2er, but Ixie is not someone I'd say is a great team fighter for an ADC because he doesn't like to stay behind his team and free hit. I think the same goes for Nap. I think Nap is mechanical, and he's great in a side lane in a 1v1. But I do think Nap's probably the best team fighter on that team. And I think the same goes for Beanie. And then I think Doki tries to look for these engages without having his team properly set up. And instead of like it being, my team wasn't set up and I went for this play when I shouldn't have, it's usually like why weren't you guys ready for me to make this play? Like there's 2 ways you could look at it. There's one way where it's your fault and there's one way where it's your whole team's fault. And I think currently Doki probably looks at it as it's his team for not being at the objective on time or not being ready on time, and compared to him just slowing down and waiting for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I personally just think that this team can be a lot scarier since all of them aren't afraid of death.
Right, all of them. I think all of them have good mechanics, and all of them are aggressive, and all of them can win hard, very hard in their individual lane. I just don't think as a team they've put it together yet. I also would like to say that when it comes to playing mid, I personally like to have a good jungle duo because it alleviates pressure in my lane and allows me to roam if I'm on some mid roams. But I'm also hard stuck silver 1 on a good day. I know my rank might say gold 4, but I'm silver 1, right? And I think Beanie probably has the worst jungle duo. I think we even talked about it. Doki has low KP. He's low assist even on these player makers. And as a mid laner, when your jungle isn't there really helping you and you are playing these other mid laners who have jungles who play around mid, it's hard to get a huge lead when you're playing champions like Yone who need to do well in lane. It's hard to really pop, but I think that he can. And I think that we've seen it, and I think he still does damage even without getting resources.
Yeah. I mean, they just put themselves in a hole. I mean, it's simply harder, especially at this level, to execute something that's not a team fight front to back comp. The barrier of execution is just higher for you than your opponents. So when you do that, you have to perform better in the decision making and the map play, and
Yeah.
they haven't done that yet. So, I mean, they look maybe worse than they could because they're failing to execute some of the harder map plays that are required of them.
Agree. All right, well, we'll go here. I think.
Wow, I can't believe you put Bongo at 12.
I didn't actually. I on my life, I know I put these in, but I actually didn't look at yours because I remade my list like 5 times trying to fit Rain into a higher spot and like couldn't. So like
Hey, are you
that is
copying
super
homework
funny.
now?
That's super funny.
Yeah.
To have Bongo at 12.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, Sigma was the last person to do this. He waited till we gave him ours. So I think he might have copied some homework.
Yeah, if I copied, I wouldn't have Scapegoat in the list. Unlike how no one else does. Okay. No one else does. They don't even have it.
Well, yeah, it was sure, but don't make it look like it.
Oh my goodness. I also think I'm the only one with Beanie.
Yeah.
I literally have picks that aren't on your guys' list.
Yeah,
Please.
I think you're the one with Beanie also. I don't think I have Beanie.
I feel like Tomato's probably a little low, but I can't hard argue it because I don't think I have Tomato that much higher. I'm not fully remembering, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to how much you value the support players versus the other players.
Yeah.
And if you think that someone else is just so much far better than them, I think you get into this range where you're just breaking into the top 10. There's a lot of variance in where you could put them, but yeah, I definitely think Tomato is a good player, but I also think the Heimerdinger has been a bit of a crutch in terms of being able to have map presence.
Yeah.
Because when he's on his other picks, he doesn't have nearly the map presence. He still plays the lane really well, but he doesn't find those opportunities to actually do something outside of the map. But with Heimerdinger, it's a lot easier because your timers are a lot bigger because you have auto push whenever you want it, basically. So I think that's kind of been a crutch.
I have no arguments. I base my support ranking purely off of if I, in theory, was an ADC who I'd want to play with me. So
yeah, every AD carry wants a Heimerdinger main who just wins the lane for them.
Yeah, I mean, well, if there's a broken champion, then use it, right? Like I don't have any arguments against that. But it's been working out for them as well. I also really like Tomato's objective control, so I have Tomato a bit higher.
Well, let's go.
I think he's strong. I just didn't know where to put him because I think like the rest of the teams are kind of.
All right,
that's why I couldn't argue it. Like, you have it at 12 and I have it at 11, so I was like, I have no comment about this because I have one higher.
I didn't even see yours. Colin coming in with, or Void coming in with once again with a hot take with turnips down at 11.
I personally have turnips higher, but I actually when I was doing my list today, I was looking at it.
Today,
and I was like,
wait a sec.
Yeah, if there was a way that I was going to move some people higher that I thought deserved a little more recognition, turnips was the first person I wanted to move.
Ooh,
I didn't think. I looked at a lot of mine as like when I look at your top player, I'm like, are you an it factor for your team? Like, if you are winning, are you going to be the reason your team wins? Then I'm going to put you higher on this list. Like, are you an it factor? And there's some players that I think are solo it factors, and I think there's some players that are like the majority, and they have really good backup. I think turnips is the number 2 on that team. I think that there's an it factor on that team, and I think turnips enables that it factor, and turnips can also be a secondary it factor. But there are other people who are higher it factors for their team than turnips.
I think turnips makes that team function. Like the Shorks don't function if turnip is bad, just straight up, because he has to be able to put pressure on the map with the Renji, who obviously is cracked.
They're
I think our point is we all have him higher, so we're not disagreeing. We're not disagreeing.
Right. I'm not. It's okay. Oh, you're just saying I think you guys are saying you didn't have. I was like, what?
No. We do. We do. We all have him higher. I think.
Okay, so you're thinking that turnips is like a crutch for the team. Like if he doesn't perform, then the team falls apart, type thing.
Well, I also don't.
I think that he's a
enough.
really good enabler for both the mid and the top, which I think feed off of him quite well. But also because of that, like they excel. But also like Molly and Arenji themselves like already have like such great potential between the two that he just kind of like adds to that level.
I think Turnips is really good playing top side of the map, and it's he is definitely helps Arenji do what Arenji needs to do, and I think that's helped. I also think the Shorks in general probably have the best macro play out of every team. They probably make the least amount of mistakes in any given game out of anyone that we've seen, and I guess we'll see on stream on Friday. But I think they make the least mistakes. I think they're good macro players, and obviously as a jungle, that is also pretty heavily in part to your decision making and your pathing and the plays that you're trying to make in the early game can set up that.
I just really love Turnip's pool because there's always like some sort of ban going after him as well, especially like things like Lee Sin or like other things.
I've always thought Turnips was good. I just last split when he was only showing up to 50% of the games, he seemed very coin flippy. It was like which Turnips am I getting? The one that's going to 1v9 in game, or the one that's not going to necessarily lose me a game, but not be a huge impact in either way. And this split, I think he has been a very good impact for that team. So I'm higher, but I don't. Yeah, I think 11.
Yeah,
I think 11's low is what we're saying.
But he's definitely respected on the top 20.
Yeah. So I won't go too much into Turnips because it might be spoilers. But I think overall his pathing in the early game is the best out of all the junglers, and it's not close. So I think that really allows him to fill that role player for his team, where we've seen him play carries, we've seen him just play Sejuani, but he's able to fit the team's need because he's been so good at his pathing in comparison to other junglers that he could just be at the right spot first. And it doesn't matter that, he's not popping off on the carry. He's playing Sejuani and he's in the top lane counter gank ready for you and turns it into a 2 kills for Arenji instead.
Yeah, but I also think that's like half of just his team play. Like the bot lane is giga safe and you're insanely hard to kill. Like ganking bot and putting pressure there is like already pointless for enemy teams because it's just so much harder to kill them. And then you have like Arenji, who's an aggressive player and is going to play up in people's faces. It's very obvious that they're going to gank top.
I'm going to disagree. I think it's hard to gank Giggle because Giggle is a very smart and aware player. I think Giggle knows that he isn't getting resources, so he doesn't have a reason to overpush. But I think Sheep, or I guess it's now not Sheep, but I don't remember what his change name is. Yeah, I think he gets caught out a lot. I think he is often overextended because he knows that Giggle can be aggressive and push things, so he expects him to, but Giggle knows they're not getting resources, so there's a misclick. And I think it actually leaves him hung out a lot. I think you could definitely get a kill every time you go bot against that team. It wouldn't be on Giggle. It'd always be on Sheep. But,
yeah. I mean, I think with I'm talking about like Turnips pathing, like I think a lot of junglers, where if they're like, you're going to play around top side, I'm going to start bot side, I'm going to full clear, and then I'll show up at top lane once I've full cleared my jungle, and we'll see if something happens.
Yeah.
And then if nothing happens, I'm just going to recall and go back to full clearing again. Where I think maybe it's not deliberate and it just, happens. But I think Turnips is deliberate with his pathing to make sure that he understands, there's an enemy Jarvan on the team who could look for a level 2 gank top lane. And he adjusts his pathing to do Krug's second instead of to his Raptors so that he's in the area if he needs to be.
Right, and I'm saying that that's a catalyst because of Arenji. And I also did check, Sheep has the 3rd lowest deaths for supports.
I know, it's because no teams put anything into them. But I've watched the games. I've physically watched them play together, and I've played in games with both Giggle and Sheep. Like I was mid for them, and every time I looked bot, they were on a misconnect, and which is funny because they're related. But I think it's because Sheep knows what Giggle can do, and he's seen Giggle apply pressure. But then when they play together on the shorts, they know they don't get pressure. So Giggle is smart enough to know if I'm not the one getting pressure, I shouldn't be pushed up. And I think that. It leaves it to where you could easily get onto Sheep, and I just don't think teams take advantage of it. And I think part of it is because teams panic when they see Turnips doing so much pressure top with Arenji, and they try to match that instead of just getting something else around the map. I think that's a big issue we see in the jungle right now. It's very rare to see a jungler actually take advantage of the opposite side of the map. And I think the only jungler I've seen do it is Iconic. Anyway, 10.
10. Top 10, lads.
Hey, Void, I get to agree with you on something, bro. Let's go.
All right. I'm tilted, John.
Hello.
Wait, you actually
Lion
have...
Giggle at 10.
Look, Giggle is solid. He's safe. He's consistent, and you know, even though
gets
he's not the highest impact, but you know, you don't have to do much to
Yeah.
lose.
He doesn't get resources. I will say if Giggle probably could do more.
Yeah,
He doesn't get resources.
He ensures that his lane doesn't lose.
I mean,
It's
he's
just, like,
consistent.
solid, consistent.
He's consistent at doing the lowest damage and having.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
as somebody who's played with Giggle, he just sits in lane and just stares at the
Like,
enemies.
sure,
He
you can
doesn't-
say he hasn't been asked to do a lot because the Shorks have 2-0'd literally everyone. But I would like to see you do something before you get put number 10 overall.
Like,
in...
I think Giggle is probably a higher skill than Sniper and Freya. But in terms of impact on the team, he actually has the exact same impact as Sniper and Freya do for their team. And I think that is why he's not in top 20, but I don't have Freya or Sniper in my top 20 either. I don't think Giggle's a huge impact. 10
think
is
Giggle
egregious.
has to
Sorry,
do
Giggle.
more. Like, I'm not seeing him make mistakes that other 80 carries are making, but you know, like you said, he's not asked to do anything, and he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Is my opinion. So you know, once he proves me wrong this week and pops off and carries his team to another 2-0, you know.
I think it's hard to
We
do
can't-
more because even if Giggle wants to carry,
Yeah.
I don't think Turnips is going to play around him because I think it's more of a risk factor to put your resources into the bot lane than it is top because top is proven to work. So why would you change the working formula at this point in the season? So I doubt we see it. I think we'll see Giggle playing safe for the rest of the season, and I don't blame the Shorks for not changing it because once again, if it's not broken,
Yeah.
don't fix it. You're 2-0ing everybody.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in terms of like because I'm pretty sure Shorks have played against all the top teams this far, right?
They play Mambas this week, and then they will.
Okay, they played Mambas this week. I'm just saying, like
Is that on
he's
stream?
able to just go consistent against one of the most aggressive lanes.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't think. I mean, it's who's the Lions ADC? It wasn't.
Is it Enders?
It was.
Ender-
It wasn't
Enders?
Enders when they played, right? Or was it?
It was.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think Phoenix's bot lane is very strong because I think Harvey just wants to leave and go make plays, and Freya just plays Ashe and tries to farm as best he can. But yeah, I mean,
But things like
don't-
Corgis, things like Enders and Tomato, which I personally think are really
the
strong.
Corgis yet?
I'm pretty sure they have.
They haven't.
Have they not?
Uh-uh.
I thought they did.
The Shorks played
versus
the
Rex.
Corgis in week 8. They haven't played them yet. So they
Oh.
haven't played Ixie. They haven't played well, they're not really playing a super strong one this week, I don't think. But like I think the strongest bot lane they played was probably they play the Lions, I assume.
have they? I don't see it.
They haven't.
they played-
He hasn't played the Lions yet. He hasn't even played against
Yeah.
Enders yet. He hasn't played against
yeah.
Enders. He hasn't played
He
against
plays
Ixie.
Enders next week.
What?
So.
He plays Enders
Oh, never mind. I'm just
in,
looking at
in week
the wrong
9.
team.
He plays in week
yeah,
9.
last
So
week.
yeah, he hasn't played those two like ADCs that we know are huge threats in lane. So it's kind of hard. I think Scapegoat is a pretty good threat in lane, and I think week 1, to be fair, it's hard to really justify that as a Giggle winning lane because he didn't do much, and then we know the Saber situation. So like it's hard to even say that he actually got a lane over on a Scapegoat either, because we don't have 2 real games to look at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really,
I mean,
I
I
think
can-
the best ADCs beat is Bongo.
Which, I mean, I think Bongo is a good AD carry, but
Bongo is. He's in my top 20, I believe. But like,
yeah, I mean, we both have him
yeah,
at 12.
he's at 12. Yeah, so
I just don't think Giggle's done enough, and you could say he hasn't done the wrong things that would, be like clear, obvious you're not on the top 10 or top 20. I just don't think he's proven that.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think modeling is very, very volatile in general, and I personally just think that Google is just consistent.
I'm moving us along. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ADCs
Huge.
right now that just take a back seat and don't do it. I think all the winning ADCs do that. Freya does the same thing for the Phoenix. When they're winning, Freya just sits and doesn't do anything. I mean, even when they were losing, Freya just was sitting, not really doing anything.
I'm people who don't sit. I have Ixie here.
Yeah.
This dude played Rengar, Ivor, and bot lane in their game 3 blind pick.
Bro, that's I don't know what to say about that. That sounds like the most Ixie thing I've ever heard of. But
Ixie's a very
you can't take credit away
1v9
from
player.
Ixie. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he
Like,
was. He
I
had the most
can't-
kills on his team by.
I
Yeah,
can't
he's-
knock him for physically. Like, I've seen this man beat Twitch, leave his lane with like 2 stacked waves, and still is like super far ahead because he gets like double, triple kills mid lane.
Yeah. Ixie is very much a 1v9. He's very aggressive. He's a scary player. He's one of those high threatening players. I think I put him a little higher because I think Ixie is the biggest it factor of that team. Honestly, Mao, the reason Mao is on my list is because of how good that bot lane is done. And I know that Mao and Ixie have played before together, and I think Mao just does what is needed to help Ixie do what Ixie needs to do. That's literally why Mao's on my list.
I'm actually interested in
Ixie
Molly
is the biggest
right now.
it factor of that team. Oh,
Yeah, I'm interested in Molly. Like,
So I think so. I've got Molly on up here because at least the games that I've watched him play, because I think I watched 2. He played against Pity really well, and he played against JoJo really well. I don't know. They may have played Rain already, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
no, they play him this week.
Okay.
They-
Molly has played exceptionally well into the top of the mid lane pool, and I think he's rather underrated. And even though I talked a little bit about how Turnip plays through top, but he also like enables Molly to play rather aggressively mid with most of his picks, so he can just he kind of has more free reign. And I guess maybe that's because of Turnip playing aggressive in the top side and forcing the enemy junglers to play through them, so he gets more time to play the solo and gets a little bit more time to actually like fuck with the other mid laners. But I think he's rather underrated for a mid laner, even though his stats aren't that great. I think that he's rather underrated, and he's really just kind of coming into his own later. Or like the further we're gonna get into the split, the more comfortable he's gonna get, and the better he's gonna become.
Molly is one of 3 zillion players in the entire league. There's my stat
So-
for you.
I don't think Molly's bad. I think there's an argument from being in top 20. I don't have him in mind because when I look at the mids he plays that are in top 20, it's Defoe and I think Pity. And in the Defoe series, Molly had a good KDA. I don't think he actually had a lot of damage on Syndra. If I recall that week, it wasn't crazy, which he was like F super fed Syndra with like 4 or 5 items, and he didn't have close to really high damage for his team. And then the second game, he played Azir, and in both games, he didn't beat Defoe in lane. And you can tell this because Defoe did the highest DPM for his team. Defoe had a good KDA as well. So you can't really be like, oh, Molly was running Defoe, who's in the top 20, so he deserves top 20 because he didn't run Defoe. Given Defoe plays safe, Lux, Zera type picks, but at the same time, like, that means that as a Syndra, he should have been able to do more, I feel like, when you're playing against someone that you know is not really leaving lane and playing safe back. And
I mean,
Kind
I
of.
agree-
You can't
I agree
really
with your
push those
sentence.
champions out.
I agree with your sentiment, but I think your reasoning of that he had a good KDA or higher DPM means that he didn't play well in lane.
well,
or something, like-
I think he had more CS. I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, Defoe had more CS in both games. And given
Yeah.
once again, Defoe's playing like Lux, it's easy to get CS. But it's like, so he's not getting pushed out of lane a lot. Like,
But he's also playing insanely hard champions to actually
Yeah.
like pressure in
absolutely,
lane and
but that's
push
why
out.
Defoe's in the top 20 is because he plays those champions that can do that, which is what his team needs, right? So my point is, like, that's one of the 2 top 20 mollies he's played. The other one is Pity. So like, you can't really say that he performed better than Defoe in my mind in the series he played against Defoe. And then against Pity, yeah, I mean, he did get Pity, but I also think Pity has been. Well, he got Pity in one of the games, another game Pity did okay, I guess. But like, yeah, I don't think Pity's been crazy. Like, I think you could put Molly in the top 20. I don't think top 10.
I think Molly is an average mid laner in the league who really
Yeah.
benefits from having turnips as his jungler.
I agree.
But
I think if you put Pity with him, obviously Pity's already gonna do good, but I think Pity would actually be a top 5 with turnips as a jungler. Like, if you trade Molly for Pity, I think Pity's top 5. If you trade Molly for Defoe, I think Defoe does the exact same job that Molly does, if not a little bit better. I think Defoe actually might do it slightly better. And if you put Frozen in Molly's seat, I would say Frozen's the top 5. Yeah, there's other, like, if I plug in other mid laners into the system that the Shorks have, every single one of them can do it as well as Molly, if not better. Not every single, but a good portion. Like about like the top 5 could, the top 5 mid laners. So if you're looking at like the top 5 compared to bottom 5s, and I think Molly is a middle tier mid laner because of it. I think he's.
I honestly think if you put Defoe in the spot, Sharks are probably worse, because Defoe doesn't play the way that Turnips needs him to play, which is up in people's faces and like in like an aggressive stance. Like Defoe's never walking up in lane. Turnip needs pressure on the map to actually put to path the way that we're talking about. I have
played mid with Turnips. That is a lie. I have played in games with Turnips. Turnips absolutely does not need pressure from his mid to do what he does. I literally have been carried in games where Turnips just did everything for me. And I was like, holy shit, like, you're actually kind of a go-to jungler. It gave me more respect for Turnips playing those games with them. And it's probably a little outside meta since we're supposed to be just doing base in the league, but like, that's a lie. He does not need Defoe to play up for him to do his thing. Turnips will still be the exact same jungler.
Even if he doesn't need it, it helps Turnips exist. Like, it helps his cause, like, at all times. As a jungler, like, I understand what he's doing, but having your mid laner play up and aggressive is much better than having them stand 10 years away from the tower, not putting pressure on the mid, where the mid can walk out and rotate to fights quicker. So I do disagree with that. I think that Molly is a better spot in this, and I think Defoe in this comp would be worse.
I guess we're gonna have to agree to disagree here, because I don't think that's true. I think that Defoe has to play the way he does right now on his team, but I think Defoe can play Syndra, which is basically the only thing that Molly's played that's really okay. He also plays Cass, so like I think Defoe could do the Syndra just as well as Molly has.
I mean, I don't think he's picked Cass in the games where Cass is playing aggressively, which is also just an issue with picking Cass. But that's beside the point.
Like he also played Azir, which wasn't a high pressure. Like I don't think Molly is.
I mean, Azir wins every lane. Azir's broken as fuck.
I don't think Molly is putting as much pressure mid as you probably think he is. I don't think he is.
They're all like very unique champions though. I think he's also forced bans on the Zillion just because he's played the 2 games in 1 week.
Yeah,
but I personally think it's
hasn't
funny.
It just been like 90% Syndra games?
Syndra
Cass.
And granted, I don't think Unicorn thinks Syndra is good.
I think Syndra is good. I think Syndra is completely fine.
Yeah,
I just don't think Syndra is the playmaker or the hyper aggressive champion that people are used to it being.
Like Molly's reasoning is like my Google reasoning, where it's just like consistent and doesn't lose the lane really. They enable their team very well, especially, and tries not to lose the game essentially.
I also think that Turnips is more influential to that team than Molly, so I think if anything, you have to have Turnips higher than Molly.
Yeah, I think that argument can be made. I could flip flop on pretty easily there.
I think I'd be happy.
Like kind of talking myself into it. Kind of talking about it. Probably talked myself into Molly being below Turnip.
Yeah. However, look at this controversy we have at 8, where I put Ixie 8, John had him 9th. You know, you guys have JoJo at 8. Right. So much controversy here.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, we're getting into like the top.
It's gonna get pretty similar, pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked. I guess we haven't really talked about JoJo. So I had him at 11. You guys have him at 8.
I don't think I even have JoJo.
All right.
Wait.
No
There is actually. Okay,
you have Whiskey Lion and Doki.
I was gonna do a poll on whose list was the most grief and whose was the best, and if you don't have JoJo on your list, you actually just took it from Void. Because I think right now Void's is the most controversial.
Oh, no,
I think if you don't have JoJo, it actually just ends your chances of
No.
Because you're competing with Doki above Nasashi.
Okay, go on to the next one. Go on to the next one, Jared, right now.
Yeah.
Go on to the next one. That's so funny. Funny.
I'll go to the next one for you. I got you.
Funny. There you go. I dodged a bullet. Oh, thank God.
Now we can talk JoJo. Now we have all the JoJo picks up there, I feel like.
Sonic's on here.
So I think JoJo is. I think his bad games are still good. I don't think his best games have been. I think it's. I think if you look, I believe you have Rain at 7. I think Comoochi has Rain still on his list. I still have Rain on my list. I know Void has
I wanted to
Rain a
put
bit
Rain
lower.
higher. I just don't think Rain is
Um,
as much of an it factor because he has I think Idaconic's the bigger it factor of that team, and then it's Rain. And because of that, like it's hard for me to put him above other people who I think are bigger it factors for their team. It is why.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
I just think JoJo he's really on his bad days he's above average, and on his good days he's really good. I just have Rain above him because Rain has shown me better highs.
Yeah.
This season.
I think both are similar in that way. I think excluding week 1, where I think Mambas needed to get their footing. I really do. I mean, they had to come out and play the Phoenix, who just individual talent is enough to play together, even without any.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first week.
It's the first week, and I think the only team who's like the best team in the first week with no like team synergy is going to be the Phoenix, just because individual talent, right? But I think if you exclude that week, Icy Rain's like worst has been basically a top 5 mid laner, and his best is a number 1 mid laner, and it's hard to argue. And when he's at his best, he is the best.
To defend the JoJo point, I just couldn't find him in my notes, and that's why I thought I didn't think I had him. In my notes, I say I really like JoJo's champ pool in general.
Yeah, I mean JoJo's
like
good.
JoJo's champ pool is like very versatile, even though like most of them control. It's like you can't ban him out. You have to play against what he has, and I think his mid bot side are very central to his team.
JoJo's a good player, and he's good at roaming when he needs to. If he's on a champ that needs to, he's good at playing control if he needs to. Like he's very versatile. I think JoJo is constantly a top 2 mid laner, and I think the other one is Rain. I think they both. I think it's JoJo and Rain, and then the rest of the mid laners. Well, not the rest. It's JoJo, Rain, and then there's about 3 mid laners, and then the rest. But like those 3 that are below them are below them, and there is a step to be made. Like JoJo and Rain have just showed a level of mid that no other team has, and they're really the only 2 mids that I see carrying teams. I don't think any other mid has done that. I think one that is close to it, and I know that you guys don't agree with it, is Beanie, because he plays the champs that can do it, and he does the damage. He just, I don't think, is getting the attention, and I think you're right. He probably makes some mistakes, and he has some deaths he doesn't have. But I think Beanie's the closest one to actually having an it factor mid for this team. Between those 2. Like, I think they're just a step above.
I also we passed over it at 9, but I'm glad you are also not an Asashi hater.
I'm not. Yeah,
like these other people.
Putting Doki above Nasashi is borderline bannable. Sorry, Doki, but you're just not. Nasashi is better.
I think Nasashi is the best support. All right.
He literally has the largest support pool. Like whatever you need Nasashi to play, he can do it. His support pool has just been limited to the champions that his ADC is playing and what his team wants him on, right? So they're like, hey, we want you on Chanter. It's what was good in the meta. Our ADC plays good with it. Can you play that with our ADC and keep him under range? And then Sashi was like, yes, sir. Yes, boss. I got it. And he did it. And he still, on Enchanters, is the only person when their team is down gold and they need a pick. You know who's getting vision down and trying to find a pick for his team? Nasashi.
His vision isn't good, though. He has the highest vision score, but it's never capitalized on. He doesn't
say, it's not capitalized on because his team's in base. Because his team can't get out of base. Because they're all losing so hard.
Fuck up in his team.
Okay, look, he tries. If you watch the games, he's literally trying to make plays and then doesn't get follow up. And once again, he just plays what the team wants him to. You could literally say, Nasashi, I want you to play this, and he'll say yes, and he'll play it, better.
I just think he needs to step up for his team if you think he's that great.
He is stepping up. I think he is the current it factor for his team. Then. It sure hasn't, but I think the rest of his team's inting.
Hey, look, just because the top side of his map forgot to install color in their League of Legends client, okay, doesn't mean Nasashi.
The top side of their map has had their entire pool handicapped because they're a low-ranked player and had to play against the best, 3 players in the first 2 weeks. So they were like, yeah, you're just playing tanks. So the top side of the map is actually completely ignored. Like, they don't even look there. Your jungle hasn't played a single carry jungle. Oh, okay, he's played, twice. He's playing support. Your mid laner plays, damage over time mids. And then your ADC is off in the side lane because it's before Arctic. I'm not this Arctic. I love you. This isn't about you. Your ADC is in the side lane is Hullbreaker or Philios, nowhere near the fight. What is Nasashi supposed to do? He makes a great engage. He makes a good play. He finds a pick. He gets the vision needed to make a pick. He hits his buttons correctly, and there's no damage. What is he supposed to do? Do the damage as a support also?
Yeah.
He tries.
Be Prometheus and play it.
I think Nasashi.
You said the Senna, but I fucking hated that pick.
Well,
I
my
hated
point is that
pick.
pick I'm pretty sure was Nasashi Cope of trying to get damage for his team.
So personally, I think the biggest.
There's so much more you can do for the meta.
I think that the most important thing for a support in a draft league in this range of skill player is to be extremely versatile, not just in champion picks, but also in play style. And Nasashi plays a bunch of different champions that fill the same role, but he also has shown playing a bunch of different champions that have completely different roles. He's, I think, been the most versatile support in adapting to what is required or what they think is required. Because sure, not every time he picks something that is different was a good option for their draft or whatever.
You see, versatility does not mean impact, okay? And I just don't think it's the greatest
But he
impact.
has had a lot of impact, and he's been versatile.
Not that I've seen.
His team can't capitalize on his impact is the issue.
Like I wouldn't
John,
say.
Are you telling me that you can 1v9 games on support? Are you actually telling me if your team is losing every lane and you're down 1,500 gold? And you find a pick play, and your team isn't within, 100 meters because they're under their T2 instead of trying to make a play or trying to find a pick, you're saying that's on you as a support, not on that. Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck you. I've carried you as support.
I know. Yeah, you have, and I've always been there to follow up on it, but his team's under their T2 because they don't have a pressure maker. They just don't. Their top's on tank, their mid's on a damage over time control mage. There's no pressure on their map anywhere, so no one can follow him when he finds a pick. They're hiding under towers.
Yeah,
the only person who would be able to follow him, the only person, he roams. He roams all the time. They don't even try. The only person, the only person on that team that I think actually would follow Nasashi to death is Def Coin Flip, and it's impossible for him to because they're putting him on tank because they're scared of him being a coin flip. But at the end of the day, the only person who would ever follow up one of his pick plays is Def Coin Flip on a Darius. And they'll never give it to him.
You're hating on Nasashi because his objective control, setting up dragons early is bad. Name one other support in this league who actually sets up objectives beforehand and they don't just all show up 20 seconds before it spawns and hope they get it.
That's the easiest thing ever. It's Tomato. He has.
Does Tomato show up? Does Tomato show up pre with wards, or does Idaconic clear out the jungle and he follows up?
Look.
No, answer my question. Does Tomato do it, or does Idaconic clear it and he does it?
I need you to shut up right now because Tomato has the greatest fucking objective control. He has highest tower pressure. He plays to win the game.
Okay,
and that's
highest tower pressure. What's Nasashi supposed to do? How is Nasashi going to get towers when once again his team's under their T2s?
He should play more Heimeringer, apparently.
If Nasashi is as versatile as you say, he needs to be playing more high-impact supports instead of letting his team run over him and putting him on these enchanters.
Nasashi is
his most played champion is Rakan.
The issue is he's going to do what his team needs so that he can win. Nasashi is going to be a team player. He's not just going to be like, no, you guys can't do it. I need to do this. He's going to play what the team thinks they need for their comp every single time because he's a team player like that, and he's a support, so he's getting picked in the first 4 picks. He's not getting a counter pick, okay? Let's make that clear. And also, he's playing Rakan, and when you watch him play Rakan, he's hitting his buttons, he's making pick plays, and then no one's near him.
That's kind of int then if he's doing that. He's making plays and no one's near him.
Wait, you're saying that's int. Wait, you're saying that's int. Void. If your team's down 1,500... Wait, no, let me ask the question. Void. If your team's down 1,500 gold, and you have no towers destroyed, they have 2 Drakes, and you guys are at your T3s, and you ward the jungle and you see the other jungler by himself, are you telling me you're not trying to get a pick to start stopping the bleeding and getting gold back in your pocket? You're actually going to tell me that you just let him take that jungle?
I mean, you're asking an overloaded question that has nothing to do with Nasashi.
No, that's what Nasashi does. So
he throws his body on a single jungler when he's behind gold. They don't have an opportunity to catch this champion, and they do that.
What do you mean not having an opportunity?
You're literally saying you're saying that he's out of position trying to catch somebody that's also out of position.
He's not out of position.
Gold,
he's in the entry. Wait, are you listening? He's not out of position. His team's at their T3s. So the Nexus towers, not the Nexus towers, the inhib towers. Okay, they're at inhib towers, and he has walked between the jungle and the wall on the outside to put a ward over the wall, so that his team can start to push out as they're pushing waves. And when he does this, and he has 2 people at his towers, the other team is on map. You saw them back off. They went to like a Baron. You caught it out. and you see one straggler down here, you're telling me that's not a pick to get gold back in your pocket? That's not Nasashi out of position. That's the other team out of position, and you trying to get gold into a carry. So then he tries to make a play, and then they just can't. They just don't follow.
Listen,
You're
as a versatile
focusing a lot
support,
on the late game when they're already fucking like 10k gold behind because of this team.
Because their team can't lane.
Right, exactly. Their
Frozen
team
is
can't
the
lane.
best laner, and
That's what
he's
I'm
griefing
saying.
half his lanes.
His
But that's-
focal point.
That's
he's
my
stuck
point.
in
Is how
lane,
can you
and
possibly blame
his
Nasashi
focal
for his
point
team
has
getting
to be the
dumpstered?
early game if he really wants
He's
to
not
win
stuck
games.
in lane though. He's
He literally is
one
roaming
of
out
the
lane.
most active out of lane
Yeah,
supports.
he literally, I think if we had a stat tracker for it, he might have the highest amount of roams out of all supports.
I think probably Tomato probably leaves Tomato or Harvey might leave the lane more, but I think Tomato only leaves the lane more because it's obvious when he should, because he's playing Hybridinger every game.
Yeah, I think Nasashi definitely leaves to make more plays. It's hard to argue he doesn't. And then once again, his team has no initiation, and he's always initiating for them, even while on Enchanters. Like, it's grief that they're putting him on those picks, but he's still trying to find plays for them all the time. You know, like when the team desperately needs gold, he is finding a pick that's easy as long as one person goes with him. And he's not, it's not like he's so far. It's not like he's at the edge of Juggle by Dragon Pit. No, he's at the edge of their base finding these picks. And his team is too scared to go with him. At the edge of their base. I don't think you blame him for it. Anyway,
their team would be 2019 TSM, just sit back, AFK, do nothing, and lose the game.
Yeah,
if he
they would
wasn't
slowly
on.
lose the game if Nasashi wasn't there. They would just literally let every game lose out if it wasn't for Nasashi. He's literally the only thing that's making plays for him. Anyway, Colin obviously has pity above Sonic.
I have him right after Sonic.
Based.
Yep.
Yeah, this is where I have Rain.
Listen, even though you guys don't think that, even though you guys don't think that pity is that high, like he has to make up for that level of
what level?
Of like
This
the
isn't
level of
levels.
like no damage.
What do you mean? No damage?
He has 30%, and you're saying Sonic's beating up the person in lane. He never leaves lane.
No,
so
no,
don't
bro,
even.
Okay, so you actually haven't watched games this season. Sonic has consistently had the highest KP for every single top laner, over 60% every single week. You know this, right?
Yeah, I think
Sonic has
is
been
like
the
the
highest
biggest
present
focal
top in team
point before
fights.
Phoenix.
Yes. Sonic has literally showed up to every, like, week 1, it was almost like he made a point to do it. He had like 80%
KP is 47%.
Well, this last week, because he had one
This
week.
is not about last week. This is about the whole season.
No, I'm
Bro,
saying
so
if you
what
look.
are we looking at here?
Yeah, Giggle, we're making you look. You gotta. Sorry.
Yeah, you no.
So listen. So, I don't know what you're looking at. He literally is consistently in the PRs had the highest. The thing is, he has a week where he doesn't have games, so having one bad series hurts him more than other people. But he is always.
Sonic has 61% KP over the season. The next highest is 52.
There you go. He literally has a 10% KP advantage on the next highest top laner. What do you mean?
He's definitely made a
look at
point
that
of the criticism that everyone levied at him last split of him just staying in top lane while his team loses the game. I feel that he's definitely taken that and done his best to adapt his playstyle while still being extremely dominant in top lane. To actually provide, assistance to his team. And I think that's one of the big level up that Sonic has done, is found those opportunities to leave lane while still winning his lane just as hard as he was.
Yeah. Like, literally, the biggest critique, like, the only critique you can make on Sonic all last season was that he just dominates lane and he destroys the other laner, but he doesn't take it to the team. This season, he has been the most consistent top laner at bringing it to the team. Week in, week out. With the exclusion of this last week, only week 5, he had the lower percentage. But every other week, he's had a higher percent, and it's not even been close. He has showed up to every fight, and he has been the impactful part of every fight. When you watch it, he is literally the game changer for fights. He is making it so the other team has 3 people who have to run for their life just because of him, and then his team just has to win a 4v2. Literally. That is what fights turn into, is him winning a 1v3 and his team just winning a 4v2.
He's only played one game with Tryndamere.
And that was, I'm pretty sure the
Well,
game he
that's
had bad
banned.
KP.
That's banned every game.
That was the only time he had bad KP.
That's not by choice, by the way. That's banned every game, so that's not by choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like, yeah, I think that you probably are thinking old Sonic. This is new Sonic. This is the full-rounded, well-rounded top lane Sonic, who is getting giant leads in lane, who is absolutely bleeding the other top laner dry, and then going to team fights and being an absolute menace. And that's why Pity has been so low on all of our lists, is because Pity hasn't been as big of an impact. Well, everyone except for John. It hasn't been a huge impact. When if Pity was playing at the level he played last split, or as I know Pity could play, the Phoenix should have never lost a game. They should have never lost a single match. Because like the Sonic diff that has been present this split is the highest top diff out of all of the top laners. And then all Pity has to do is play at his level, which is like one of the better mid laners, and that team's unstoppable no matter what the rest of the team does.
Yeah. I think Pity could be, if Pity was playing at the level we know he's capable of, I think you could make an argument for they could very easily rotate style between Sonic being the main focus and Pity being the main focus. But I don't think so far Pity has played up to that level. But I think he's capable of it. I mean, I've seen him be capable of it. I just don't think he's shown that so far this split.
Yeah,
I
and
disagree. Pity's pool isn't a carry pool. He plays like assassin, like carry assassin, like catch champions. And for him to have that much like DPM, because I literally play with Pity, I know what his pool is. He's not playing Cassiopeia every game to have these insane damage numbers. He has these insane damage numbers on champions that are not supposed to have insane damage.
He doesn't have insane
Pity's
damage.
played 5 games on Ahri, and a game on Annie, a game on Vel'Koz, and a game on
For him
Vex.
to do this much percentage on his team's damage, he's doing a lot.
I think you're looking at the percent for maybe. Are you looking at the percent for overall or 1 week out of curiosity?
Percentage damage of his team. His team's
Are you
like
looking at
percent
1
for how
week
much damage
or-
he does. No, this is his overall percentage. It's 0.1% below African Rhino, who literally 1v9s every game if they win.
Well, they don't.
I,
So that's
I just think
your issue.
I do think Pity's a strong player. It's just I think he's overrated in this case.
I do too. I think Pity has gotten once again. It's easy for Pity to do damage because Sonic literally takes 3 people out of the fight. Pity is fighting a 4v2, right? Is that what it is? Yeah. Pity's fighting a 4v2, and the 3 people around him are all supports and there to enable him. So he's just pumping damage because Freya isn't doing damage in fights. We know this. We look at the stats. Freya isn't doing damage. So Freya isn't doing the damage. Then you have a support style jungler and because that's kind of what Gale's played this split. He's playing utility jungler and a Harvey. So Pity is just the only one in the fight doing damage to the other 2, and Sonic's just running other people off. Like he's literally there's a vivid memory of one of their games on stream where Sonic on I believe Aatrox is chasing 3 people away to their base, while Pity is just getting the freest 4v2 of his life.
I mean, I don't think Pity's playing bad. I mean, I think we all have Pity in the top 20.
Yeah, he's top 20. Yeah. On the PR rankings, Pity ends up usually in top 5, top 4 every week. But there has been weeks where he's not, and I think that is inconsistency, whereas I think Sonic has been more consistent this whole season. And not only that, Sonic was already one of the best players, and then he added another element to his game.
I would like to see Pity, play at the level that I've seen him play in other situations. I just don't think he's shown that this season so far. But now we can get into the spicy topic of top 5 players
Let's see top 5s
in the league.
I don't know how you guys didn't have Ixie top 5. To be honest, I wait, Colin, do you not have Ixie in your top 20?
No, I do. He's next.
Okay. So
Okay.
bet.
Okay.
I was getting
4.
worried when I wasn't seeing Ixie here.
No, I have him 4.
I love the Ender's pick.
I
though.
arguably want to switch my 3 and 4.
You can talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
We'll allow that.
Yeah,
I think this might be this is the wrong screenshot, I believe, because Ryan actually I believe has Sonic and Renji. It's actually switched.
I want to swap them. I think they're very
I had
very close, filling very
different.
similar roles for their team. I just think RNG has a much better jungler with a lot better presence to play around top lane. So I think he gets a lot more of that benefit, and I haven't seen him do the same style of carrying that he normally does with less resources, I guess. Which, obviously I don't think it's the way that Shark should play, is giving him less resources.
Yeah. No, that's
But I'm just I think they're very, very similar players, and I just slightly give the edge to Sonic based off that. But I think they're extremely interchangeable, and either team would have the same success they have if they swap teams.
I agree. I think
RNG's champ pool is also like starkly different from Sonic's as well.
I think RNG might actually have more versatility, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I would put
RNG's is definitely more
Sonic.
hard carry top laners than Bruce top
I mean,
laners.
he's
playing
he has
Yone.
an R game.
Yeah, but I mean, Shorks is. I mean, RNG's playing Yone, Jace are 5 of his 10 games.
Yeah, but I also think
does he have 10 games though?
His biggest tank is Gnar and Stat. I
think his champ pool is better than Sonic's, and that's why I personally think that's RNG over Sonic.
I wouldn't say better in the fact of I think that RNG might have more champions that you have to worry about him pulling out, but I think the champions that Sonic can pull out, that 5 of them basically get banned every game. It's 4. I mean, you basically like Sonic on average is eating like 4 bans, and it's because if he gets any of those 4, it's higher than any of RNG's are. I think his best 4 are better than RNG's best 4, but I think RNG has a bigger pool. I think Sonic on the champions he has, it's a smaller pool, but he has absolutely mastered them. Whereas RNG has a bigger pool, and he hasn't quite mastered to the level of Sonic, but it's still like insanely good play. If that I don't want to cut short how good RNG is on his champions, but I think that I think RNG has more champions that he can play at a high level, but Sonic's smaller pool, he just plays a little bit better. Is my argument for that. I don't think anything else here is that crazy, other than you guys are discussing for not putting Ixie up here. He is the it factor for the team.
I just think other players are better.
Yeah.
I think other players have more around them than Ixie does.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but...
Speaking of players, other 60. Edaconic.
Great Edaconic here. This is what dropped Rain for me. I wanted to put Rain top 5, but I was like, when you look at a lot of the players that I have up here, a lot of these players are like solo doing the things that Rain is doing, whereas Rain has Edaconic to help him do it.
Yeah, I love Edaconic just purely because a lot of his playstyle is very snowbally. He's very fun to look at, and after the first week, he sort of like filled in the role of, okay, I'm just gonna be really high impact for his entire team, and that's why I think Black Mamas have just been consistently improving throughout all these weeks.
I think
they're perfect. Icy Rain and Edaconic, I think, are the best mid jungle duo, and I think they pair with each other perfectly. Icy Rain, he's playing Zed, he's locking in Yone, like he's playing a lot of these hyper aggressive AD champions. He Pantheon, and then Edaconic can play. I mean, his most successful champion is playing Echo, which you would like to have an AD mid laner to pair with it. But also, just even when he's not playing Echo, he's playing Kha'Zix, Viego, Graves. Like he wants to be hyper aggro, and Rain wants to be hyper aggro, and they're just playing aggro together and outplaying people.
They also have some of the biggest champ pools ever between just the two.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have like most versatile out of the league.
Once again, I think Rain, like I don't disagree with the 4 pick there, Ryan. I think Rain is an insane player. It was just that it's hard to put him in the top 5 because there's other players who are also playing insane without as much of a strong duo. Like I think Rain and Edaconic together are insanely strong, and if we were ranking best duos in the league, they'd be number 1. It wouldn't be close. But I think they'd be number 1, and then like a little bit below would probably be a RNG and Turnips. But I just think that's what made Rain fall for me, because Edaconic has been so strong, and they are strong together. But I think it's mainly part of Edaconic.
So I think one thing, which is kind of what Void was talking about when he was talking about turnips, is I don't think that either of them individually look as good if they have another pairing. Because Edaconic does a lot of positioning himself in ways to, I wouldn't say he's necessarily really smart with his pathing, but he positions himself in ways to punish the ints that the enemy team does, which is how he gets like so many kills every game and how he snowballs so quickly in the games, is he's like, you're going to throw and you're going to throw right here. So I'm going to be there and catch the throw. And the fact that he's always able to do that because he knows he always has backup from someone else. I think if he was playing with someone like Defoe, who has been extremely consistent, Iconic looks like sometimes he's just griefing because you look at it and it's like, why would you be there? You have no backup. You have like, so I just think that the pairing works together, and I don't think it takes away from either of them that the other one is performing super well.
That's fair. That's fair. I think they're both top picks. I can't argue it. I think Void, Ixie at 4 is fair. I think everyone else undersold them. Ixie is literally why the Corgis win. I think Beanie and Ixie are that whole team.
I think Ixie's most of that team. I think everything that he does kind of shows that. I don't think there's really much to talk about with him. He's just a fucking absolute psychopath.
You could put Ixie on any team and it makes him better.
Yeah.
Literally,
To be fair, I think Ixie is the second best AD carry. I just think AD carry is not as important when I got into my.
This is where I said I could switch my 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But I think that if you want to go to or 3. I think
this my number 3 is right.
So
There
so
it
this
is.
is, so give so give me a second. So
You
I have
actually
Bongo here
ruined the
because he
flawless
has,
3, bro.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, okay. Well,
Oh
I put him
my.
at 5, so relax. Okay, so and this is where I said like I could flip. Honestly, I could flip the like any of these 3 ADCs. I think they're all like insanely close. And the reason why Bongo I have him up higher is because he has legitimately nothing to work with. We're making arguments for other players that have nothing to work with. Everybody on his team is in either the bottom 2 of their position on his team.
I'm pretty sure Sean's been having some good weeks, and then this last week Lizzo had a like super good week.
Yeah, but Lizzo has been.
I don't like.
Lizzo has been bad. Don't be bad. Lizzo has been bad.
terrible.
I think his mid has been pretty solid, and then not to mention like I've been pretty disappointed by Phoenix because I thought Phoenix had the potential to be one of those like upper junglers.
I did too. I was really hoping because I love his pool and I love how what he showed in
but I also
in exhibitions, but he just has not been it.
I think Bongo looks. I think it's that theory. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. Aren't I? You know that theory of like when you see a group of people and one of them looks really good because they're by a group that looks worse. And then when you separate them apart and it's just them, you're like, okay, maybe they're not. I think that's what's happening with Bongo.
Yeah.
Because
you see,
that's the best fucking reasoning you can give.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't even care. You win. I don't care. That reasoning's fucking amazing. I love it.
So yeah, you see, with our Ender's pick right now, Enders doesn't have that issue. Even in the losing position, he's willing to tread that nice edge as an AD carry, which we all really like. I'm assuming.
It's he remind. I'm not gonna be like a little bit about this, but he reminds me very much of what I do when I play ADC, where I literally skirt the edges of every single fight, and just like literally doing the max amount of damage.
200 HP, he'll get away with murder, and then he'll do it like
he
10
pulls some
times
Sigma out of I'm getting away with it, and he shouldn't get away with it, and then it's just this bullshit.
That's like one of the biggest it factors in this league to me, because of that.
I played I played against him in in-houses, and wow.
Against Enders?
I was against Ender, and he surprised the hell out of me.
So you're switching your 3 and 5 is what you're saying.
I like this is so I can. This is what I was saying is like I could fuck with all 3 of these. I think they can move around quite a bit because I still think Bongo. Sure, your argument's amazing, and I can move to 5 for it, but I still think he's top 5 because he has nothing to work with.
And the reason I make that argument is because I constantly hear hype about Bongo, and I mean constantly. And he has decent stats every week. There's no doubt he has decent stats. His team's not doing great. But once again, you can't look at the damage share percentage as hard on Bongo because when your team's not doing any damage, it makes sense you have a higher damage share, right? So like if your team isn't doing anything and they're all getting gapped and you're the only person hitting back, of course you have a higher damage share. But that being said, that does mean that Bongo's in the game, and that means that he's doing well in his lane. So you can't take that away from him. But also I've heard about how he's so perfect at positioning and how he doesn't make these mistakes. And then I've watched multiple replays where like Bongo had the chance to actually win a fight in a pivotal moment for his team. His team did great frontlining for him. And then instead of kiting, he'd walk back in range.
We literally just watched the worst play of Bongo on split, right under the fucking right there where he got hooked under tower by Nautilus as Sivir.
That's not even the worst one.
No, that was the worst.
the worst one is
there's
where
one where
he
he flashed away from Diana. But okay, so he didn't sidestep any of the ults. He ate the Diana ult and everything. He was playing, I want to say, Sivir in the game. So he eats everything. After eating everything, then flashes away. The second after flashing away, and you could say this is a misclick. Maybe he doesn't A click, so he was trying to click to auto.
Yeah.
He walks back into her melee range, and lets her hit him when he
I-
could have turned the fight.
Just pulled some melee vein.
Yeah, I like to
basically.
talk more about
After
Enders
flashing away.
because I want to talk
I've
more
never
about
seen
Enders
anybody
here,
do that.
Purely because
yeah, fuck you.
yeah, fuck you. I want to change
Fuck
the
you,
talk.
Ryan.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, fine.
I want to talk more about Enders because Lions balling single-handedly, in my opinion, has the best mechanical outplay in like the entire league. Their balling is so strong that leaving them alone is just a pure threat, and that's why I have him higher than Ixie, purely because like Ixie, he
Me
can
too.
single-handedly like 1v9 games,
I think
but
we all do.
when it comes to the small micro plays that you don't expect, Ixie isn't able to pull this off, and Enders can.
I know. I think Enders is the best ADC in the league. I think he's the best ADC in the league. I agree with that. I think the same reasoning. I think with Bongo, you can point out some times where he makes some small missteps or some small mistakes. You don't find that as much from Enders. Enders' team can be absolutely getting stomped, and he is probably the only person in the league that does this, where his team could be down in gold. It could look unwinnable, and he can bring his team back to win because of him alone. Like, I'm pretty sure in their series against, what was it? Who did they play? Was it last week or the week before? Where they were playing on stream. And there was a game where it looked unwinnable.
Wasn't it Eagles? They went to game 3 on
Was it
stream?
on stream?
I want to
Yeah,
say it was stream.
Yeah, I think it was his Kaisa,
Let me look.
one of his Kaisa.
Was it? It was his Kaisa into Bongo's Sivir.
Yeah.
So it would have
Yeah.
been. So it was Feast or Famine versus Lion. There's a 3-game series, I believe.
Okay. So
No, that was a 2-0.
Was it a 2-0?
It was a
So-
2-0
Okay.
for Lions, but that was the
That was
neither
the-
team wants to win.
Yeah.
There's
a
every team
point
was
that's-
throwing.
And this is also why I would say Bongo isn't as good. In that series, Feast or Famine actually had an early lead in one of these games, and the Kaisa was getting pretty strong. And then Kaisa walked up and was trying to, I think it was Zach. Zach still had passive and just started ignoring Enders, who was in the bush next to him, just so he literally walked past him to start autoing the Zach. And it gave over the shutdown. And the second that Enders got that shutdown, the game never became close again. Enders single-handedly won that game for the Lions after that. He became this giga stomp, huge damage, like just monster. And then all they had to do was catch one thing of CC and he'd kill everyone. So like
Yeah,
every fight he would find Kaisa, 3-shot Kaisa, and then wreck the rest of the team. It was
That game alone, he had 4 triple kills.
Yeah, it was disgusting. Like literally, he didn't do great in lane. And the Kaisa in theory came out ahead and had a shutdown. But then
I think
Bongo
you're
grieved.
No, he was
other-
behind in lane. No,
I think
Bongo,
you're the other way
they
around.
won lane.
He was
okay.
playing Kaisa.
Yeah, no,
and
so
they were
Bongo
playing
was
Sivir.
Sivir and
Yeah,
Ender
Bongo
was
was Sivir.
playing
Ender
the
was
Kaisa
Sivir.
like
yeah,
a
the other way.
fucking
Enders
like
playing the
just
Kaisa. Yeah, the other way around.
unbelievably psychopathic.
Yeah. But regardless of the point stance, I'll just flip it around.
Yeah, just flip it, and there you go.
Enders
I mean,
is still strong.
I think
won't
He
say
walked
his-
past the Kaisa. Was that what it was? And then got that must.
No, he so
he was the Kaisa. It was
he
Sivir,
was the Kaisa.
Yeah, Enders was a Kaisa. He got a good W onto Bongo, assassinated him immediately, and that's the end of the
My
fight.
to be
point
fair,
was
that's
that
not a 1v1.
Bongo was chasing a Zach, and like
Yeah, it's actually in this replay, but Sivir was chased. Kaisa ulted in deep to get the turn. They get the kills, and then Sivir shows up as they're trying to retreat, and Zach is low HP running away, and Sivir walks into the banana bush in top lane river, and then auto attacks Zach into his passive while Kaisa just 3-shots him or 4 hits him, whatever.
But like the thing is, he had the guys on vision before chasing to get passive. And that's the thing is, like, it was to get a passive off when you had a shutdown. Like you had a shutdown on you, and you walked up to go get the passive off, and then you died to it, and it gave gold to Enders that he just ran away with. It was awesome. Yeah, you're right. Because he would Kaisa ult onto him, and then he would kill him, and then kill the rest of the team. And like it was just an Enders show. Like he just
And
I mean, I
think Enders
say,
is just the
from
best
the ADC
laning.
perspective, it's a little, yeah. I'll give you the Zach because that was really that was
But
hilariously in. But
you
the
see those small
1v1,
mistakes from Bongo all the time, and you don't see them. Like I'm sure Enders
right? But
has some, but I
he
don't see
had
nearly
the
as much.
lead in lane though. Like Bongo won the lane in the matchup that he really shouldn't. The Kaisa Sivir matchup is not that great for Sivir.
I mean, is it really great for either of them?
But the point is, Bongo had the lead and threw it away, which is a mistake. Like that, I don't want that.
Well,
I'm
not saying that's not
I would
true.
rather an ADC who didn't win lane but came out in a spot where they can still be helpful than an ADC who won lane and then came out and threw.
I think Enders wins almost all of his lanes. I think he is the best laning AD carry, and of the like top 5 AD carry diffs that we've had so far, I think all of them are Enders.
Yeah.
Like his Caitlyn Lux, where I don't remember who it was against, but that was the most brutal bot lane. Obviously,
I think it was a series they lost.
It was
no
Mambas. It was 0 junglers came to that lane for the first like 15 minutes. It was a pure 2v2, which sure obviously is a mistake. It's a fucking Kate Lux lane. Both junglers should be there, but it was just a straight 2v2 and his absolute demolition of the enemy bot lane. And I think he's like the top 5 of all the bot lane diff games.
Yeah.
He's just been extremely good in lane and been really good in team fights in terms of positioning and getting out his damage and not, someone jumped on me, brought me down to 30%, but we killed him. Now I'm going to keep running away. It's, the threat is gone. I'm paying attention to cooldowns. And sure, you can say maybe he's not paying attention to cooldowns. The other team just wastes all of them, whatever. But he's not running away just because the threat brought him low, but then the threat's dead. And he understands that when he can actually position aggressively and who's the most aggressive target he can hit in team fights.
I agree.
Top
I think
two?
I'm going to show both these together because I think if you show one, it will probably spoil a lot of last year. Whereas, people were probably counting their names and they're like, okay, I can give you 2 or 1 type of thing.
Yeah, I think my
we
2
show
are
them together.
obvious.
I think mine are also. I think you and I might have a very.
I mean, I think everyone knows my 1 and 2.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. I've debated switching the Renji one because I think he has a bigger pool, but I'm backing up my thought process of Sonic is number 1 because he has less help than a Renji does in lane. And Sonic does it all himself in lane. Like, don't get me wrong, Gale ganks him, don't get me wrong, but Sonic does the setup by himself even if he doesn't get jungle pressure. Like, Sonic will do
pretty
it by
sure.
himself.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Renji has solo killed Sonic, so get fucked.
Yeah, he has, but Renji also once again. I think one of the games went Renji's way and the other one went Sonic's way. Like,
Yeah,
as
it was
a
a
two,
1-on-1.
They both are number 1 at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Obviously,
they're pretty strong. I think
very
both their
similar.
teams. I think both their teams rely on them so much that I can't really contest them not being 1 or 2. Purely because if one of them loses, then a lot of their team sort of just goes downhill.
Yeah, I think if they're not there, let's say there's a week that they can't be at the game, their team goes from being a top 2 team to a middle of the pack team immediately. That's how important they are to their teams. That without Sonic on the Phoenixes, even with Pity, and if Pity has a good game, but if you replace Sonic, which is another plat top laner, I think they're a middle of the pack team. And if you do the same with the Renji and the Shorks, they're a middle of the pack team. Obviously, I think the Shorks have a better chance because Turnips has just played so astounding that there's a I think that the Shorks probably still are top 3 actually, but a Renji is huge for his team and so is Sonic. Because I have to put a number 1 and I have to put a number 2 and I can't do both 1. I put Sonic above just because I think Renji gets more help in having Turnips, who has been a monster.
Yeah.
Which is his fault though. It isn't his fault that he is a good jungler, but.
Yeah, another point I'd like to add is I respect the Iconic as top 2 as well because he's been consistently improving throughout the league and with him and Rain, I think Black Mamas can still can make it can win the league as well. I think all these top 5s are just purely with these players alone they can win the league.
I agree. That's what my top 5 was it factors, and that's why they're all different teams. If you look at my top 5, it's literally 5 different teams because every single one of them is the it factor for that team. Now Turnips not being the top 5,
all of us are.
Yeah, I think the most.
Okay, no, it's just you and
I think the most interesting out of these is the Turnips pick as number 1.
I can see.
All right,
I can see it too.
So
I can
obviously
see it,
the reason I have junglers 1 and 2 is because jungle is broken. Nerf jungle. I don't care. But also I think
mid laner, by the way.
I think they're extremely good. And the reason I have Turnips over at Iconic is kind of the reasons we had talked about previously when they were brought up. Is I think Turnips they're both extremely good mechanically, but I think Turnip's pathing is a lot better. And I think Iconic just I don't think I'm not saying like his stats are inflated or something, but I think he really benefits from the fact that no one can understand that, oh, I might be in danger here. So I
don't think you could take that away from him though.
Yeah,
if he's recognizing that, like, he's making these plays, and this is why I put him on, is because he's literally putting himself in that position.
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying. That's why I put Turnips ahead of him. He's still number 2, like on my list. It's just I think that there's multiple times where he makes plays that start the snowball, but that play shouldn't have happened. And I don't know what happens in these games if that early snowball catalyst doesn't happen because the team was slightly smarter about how they played. Whereas I think Turnips just overall, he might not have the highest highs of like, you look at his scoreline, you're like, well, what the fuck? That guy 1v9 the game so hard. But I think his early pathing is a lot more consistent and not reliant on I need to get this snowball kill early to really start, snowballing the game. And I'm not taking that away from him. I just think that's what I would put as giving Turnips the slight edge over him in terms of the jungle matchup. But I think they're both very similar, and I think the gap between the top 2 junglers and the rest of the junglers is massive in comparison to all the other roles. So that's why I have them 1 and 2 is.
I think if we had Visionary on jungle from the start of the season, he might be here. The games that he's played on actual jungle has been kind of nuts, but yeah, I agree with you with a lot of it. I still think Iconic is better overall, just because he's able to pretty much 1v9 games by himself. Whereas like Turnip, yeah, you're right. He might be better at the actual like, the mid maxing of where he needs to be in specific scenarios, but like Iconic's ability to just carry the game is unparalleled. In between the two, in my opinion. Like Turnips is great, and I'm not saying he's not. And honestly, if anything, you've talked me into putting Turnips higher. But I still think that Iconic is just has that. He has the next level of the it factor, like that Sigma's been talking about here. I think that he is it, and as a jungle lover myself, like I appreciate the way that he plays his game in such an aggressive way, in such like a kill thirsty way to just kill everybody into submission, freeing up the rest of the map and letting his team do stuff. So like that's why I appreciate him more. That's why I put him, a lot higher than Turnip. But yeah.
I see it. That's why I have him higher than Turnips as well. I think both are great junglers. I just think Iconic has a bit more of an it factor. I think him and Lin have just been absolutely lethal, and ever since they've gotten on the same page, I think they have become easily a top 3 team. I don't think there's hiding anymore. I mean, once again, they made the Lions look like they were nothing. They obviously don't get a chance at the Phoenixes again until playoffs. But like we'll see tomorrow, not tomorrow, I guess Friday. With I guess it depends on when this releases. Anyway, we'll see Friday with how they stack up against the Shorks, who I think are as a roster more of a smart team. I don't think they're going to give as many mistakes away as maybe they've been able to capitalize on, because I think that also is a big thing. Is that Mamas have done well at capitalizing on these mistakes. Kind of like how Unicorn was saying that Iconic, like he's just getting these moments that he shouldn't be. So I'm curious how it will go against the Shorks if they just find a way to force mistakes, which then obviously even makes him look as a better player if he's actually forcing mistakes.
And they do that a lot, especially once they get leads. They're really good at snowballing, which a lot of snowballing is forcing the enemy team into either bad situations where there's no winnable outcome, or you force them to make mistakes and you just straight up skill check them. And I think they do all of that extremely well as a team, but also just individually between, Iconic and Rain are kind of the drivers of that. So, all
right, let's try to get it done before 2 hours. We have like a minute before we hit the 2 hour mark. Let's any final statements from anybody? Any closing remarks? Any special shouts that you want to give?
I'm ready for the Eagles to go undefeated the rest of the season.
I agree.
They better. Habib has assured it.
I've been assured it will happen, so
I like it. I like it.
It's the only thing that
I'll say it.
it's part of the script, so like it has to happen.
Your hour-long rant has not convinced me.
All right.
what was that?
Well, we'll probably do another one of these then, the split guys. So start preparing your notes now. Maybe next time we can make it shorter. We'll shoot for like an hour 30. But I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope everyone enjoys the content. And go Eagles.
Nasashi